Did you see how many cases today?
I see that we're streaming. Am I correct?
Yeah, Sandra, do you want to hit record? Okay, we are live.
Excellent. Well, good evening, everyone. Today is November 12th. We are in our work session here at North Clackamas Board. Hope everyone is doing well. And today our work session is focused in on our reopening schools and the new health metrics and equity-based decision-making tool. So I'm going to go ahead and hand it over to our superintendent.
So good evening, everyone. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. So good evening, board, staff members joining us tonight, and community members. We're going to spend the next hour or so discussing the reopening of our schools, paying particular attention to the new health metrics that came out about 10 days ago, equity-based decision tools, as well as the transition to hybrid instruction. But as I begin the work session tonight, it is under what I would term a dark cloud of exploding coronavirus cases, both in our county, our state, and our country. Today, Oregon recorded yet another record daily cases of 1,122 cases. That marks the first time in our state since the pandemic began of over 1,000 cases in a single day. The test positivity rate for today was just over 14%. To put that in perspective, we spent most of the pandemic referencing test positivity rates around 5%. The new record pushed Oregon's daily case average to 863 over the past week, and that is double the volume since October. Active hospitalizations also reached a new high today at 303, and that is the first time that has surpassed 300 since the beginning of the pandemic. And today, Clackamas County recorded 102 cases. So clearly, this data is not helping our efforts to safely return our students and staff to in-person instruction. In fact, we are moving in the wrong direction. So tonight, what I hope to cover is reminding folks where we are with our current board recommendation regarding reopening. I want to review the new health metrics and make sure that we all understand those and answer any questions that folks may have. I want to look at the current county metric status. How is Clackamas County doing in comparison to meeting those metrics? I'll give some updates on limited in-person instruction because those also changed when the new metrics came out 2 weeks ago. Briefly talk about the equity-based decision tools that we should be utilizing in our decision-making processes, and then talk about a proposed timeline. And as always, we'll end with some discussion. So as we have throughout this pandemic, we have responded and we've taken actions keeping in mind our district vision and our strategic plan and our equity lens. And that district vision continues to be preparing graduates who are inspired and empowered to strengthen the quality of life in our local and global communities. Our strategic plan is grounded, right, in equity, engagement, care, integrity, and excellence. And we work hard to center an equity lens in our decision-making processes. We've also utilized these guiding thoughts and values and try to keep them at the center of our work as we've navigated this pandemic. And I want to just read these into the meeting tonight, is that we value a high quality education and the academic progress of each child. Right? We want to make sure that we are helping to maintain low rates of COVID virus transmission in our community. We want to make sure we're coordinating our actions that underscore the safety and the care for the people in our community and provide reassurance for our students, staff, and our parents. And we need to be ready and stand ready with multiple education delivery models that are responsive to the current health and our community needs. We currently are operating two instructional delivery models, comprehensive distance learning, as well as our virtual online program. And we're preparing to implement a third, and that would be the hybrid model. I think it's important for us to acknowledge that none of those models existed prior to March 13th of this year. And I just want to commend our staff for their work in helping us deliver these models, again, none of which existed previously. And thank our parents and our students for their support as we continue to navigate what is hopefully once in a lifetime pandemic. So that brings me to today. And most of our students, as I said, continue to be educated primarily in the comprehensive distance learning model. We've had just 3 months to be working in that CDL, that comprehensive distance learning model in Oregon. And the reason why I think that's important is because we've had more than 150 years of in-person instruction. And the reason why I want to share that with you is that comprehensive distance learning continues to be refined. We continue to see our teachers integrate new technology, new applications, new programs, from Pear Deck to Padlet to Jamboard to Google Breakout Rooms. We continue to refine our attendance practices and our grading policies and practices. We've added high school athletic training and conditioning, and we're establishing a new way of doing parent, teacher, student conferences in the coming weeks. So I would say that over the course of the last 10 days, I've had the opportunity to visit about 20 classrooms in our school district across all 3 levels. And what I'm seeing, it really truly has warmed my heart. I'm seeing teachers work extremely hard in learning a new way to instruct, learning new programs. I'm seeing students engaged in their instruction. Has it been easy? Absolutely not. Do we need to continue to refine and get better at what we're doing? Absolutely. But I am pleased at what I have seen, and I know that we will continue to get better in delivering in this model. To remind our community and those watching tonight, on October 22nd, out of an abundance of concern for public health and the safety of our students and staff, our board took a number of actions. Those include authorizing the continuation of comprehensive distance learning through February 9th of 2021. The board also agreed to revisit this timeline if the required COVID-19 Oregon health metrics for in-person instruction were modified. We now know that they have been modified, and we're going to talk about that tonight. The board also agreed to allow the piloting of some limited in-person instruction back at their October 22nd meeting. So we're going to talk about all 3 of these items. So where are we headed with this? And the next set of slides here, and you'll see up in the top left-hand corner, it says the Oregon Health Authority. These are their slides as they rolled out their new metrics, and I'm going to share a number of them with you tonight. The Oregon Health Authority, along with ODE, about 13 days ago, updated their metrics on the reopening of public schools in our state. And they offered a number of reasons and beliefs for making those changes. Those include improving support systems for children. This idea of returning to in-person instruction is one of Oregon's highest priorities. I've heard the governor say it is her highest priority. We know that students receive their breakfast and lunches in our schools. Some of our students receive their dinners as well in our schools. And that is important for many of our students and many of our families. We know that this past September, compared to previous Septembers, that across the state, there were 1,500 fewer cases of suspected child abuse reported to state authorities. We obviously are hearing stories from our students and our parents and our staff regarding the mental health strain that our students and families and staff are experiencing. And we know that in an online format, it is more challenging to develop those important relationships with one another. So those are some of the reasons why the Oregon Health Authority, the Governor's Office, and ODE continue to review the metrics and make the recommended changes that they did. We also know that new data is available. We've now been in this pandemic now for 8 months. And the Oregon Department of Education and the Oregon Health Authority, right, they initially created those metrics for returning to in-person instruction in early August. And if we know anything in living and working with this pandemic, that nothing stays static. We are consistently modifying and changing our practices. We also know that COVID-19 spread can be mitigated in schools. And the research does support that schools are not super spreader events. And in Oregon's guidance, the Ready School Safe Learners, by following those practices and those requirements in that document, we can reduce, but not eliminate, the risk of COVID-19 spread. So in returning to in-person instruction, right, Governor Brown and ODE, Oregon Department of Education, and the Oregon Health Authority really focused on a number of key points. That is ensuring that our schools are ready to implement all the public health protocols with fidelity. They also want us to make sure that by providing these new metrics that allow for in-person instruction at a reduced level of risk. And they want to make it clear how Oregonians in every county across the state can take steps needed to meet these new metrics and allow our kids to return to in-person instruction. And we've heard our governor repeatedly over the past week really implore residents of our state to wear masks, to stay home, to use good hygiene practices, to wash those hands, to keep our physical distance from one another. And those will, we know, make a difference. So in looking at the new metrics, there were a number of changes, and these really are the top 5, and I'll review them here and then I'll go into a little bit more detail. The first changes how far back a county looks in the metric data. And it changes it from a 3-week look back to a 2-week look back. It increases the metrics access for in-person instruction, really focusing at the elementary level. It maintains the use of some exceptions to the overall metrics, and I will talk about what some of those exceptions are that apply to our school district. It extends the implementation window for starting in-person instruction, and it advises us to use an equity decision tool, an equity lens in making our decisions. And it limits in-person instruction, and it changes those limited in-person instruction cohort sizes and overall group size, and I'll talk about that as well. So the first change is what we're referring to, is what the state's referring to as now a 2-week look back regarding the data. So before, on the left-hand side, we looked at data in 1-week intervals over a 3-week time period. And I would say it was confusing to explain to folks. Now it's a single 2-week look back. And what that does now is it aligns with the Centers for Disease Control as well as other states that are using the same metric. And so there's consistency now in that data collection process. I'll show you what that looks like here in a moment. Here is the new metrics table. And again, all this is available on ODE's website. And what we really want to focus on for the North Clackamas School District is this top line, and then the third line, and then the bottom line. So the top line refers to the first metric, which is the cases per 100,000 people, right, in a county. And you can see it moves from, if it's less than 50, you can have students on site in your school. If the metric is between 50 to 100 people, cases per 100,000, then you can have on-site and distance learning in your schools. You're in a transition phase here in the yellow zone when your cases per 100,000 are between 100 and 200 people. And you should really be, when you're over 200, you should really be looking at distance learning. We still have this test positivity rate. Previously, the metrics, there were 2 test positivity rates. You had to meet the state, and then you had to meet the county. The state overall metric is now gone, and so there's now a more local focused. So we would be looking at this, the county test positivity rate for Clackamas County. And again, you can see that when it's less than 5% and you have 50 or fewer cases per 100,000 people, you could be in on-site instruction. When it's between 5 and 8% and you meet the 50 to 100, you can have on-site and distance learning. You're in that transition phase between the yellow and the pink, right, when that test positivity rate is between 8 and 10%. And then any test positivity rate over 10%, you should be moving into, if you're not already, into that distance learning model. The other piece that I'd like to point out here is this instructional model. So based upon where you are in your county, right, then you look down at the bottom column or the bottom row for clarity regarding the instructional model. So if we were in the yellow zone, right, it's prioritizing a hybrid model at the elementary school level, right, starting with K3 and then adding up to grade 6. In the yellow zone, middle and high school still remain in comprehensive distance learning. It's not until you get to the green zone where you would look at moving your entire school district into a hybrid or on-site model. In addition to the local county metrics, right, the guidance also has school districts look at their neighboring counties. And this is similar to the prior metrics. The wording changed slightly, but what we know in North Clackamas is that 26% of our staff live in Multnomah County. And when you are a school district that has more than 10% of your students or 10% of your staff from a county where the case rate or the test positivity rate puts them in that transition zone, right? That's this the orange column here, right? The school district should consider delaying a return to in-person instruction until those counties also meet the required metrics. There is an exception, and that is unless discussions with your local public health authority, in our case, that would be Clackamas County Public Health Department, right? Unless in collaboration with them, a decision is made that the neighboring county does not pose a significantly higher risk. We're in fairly consistent and ongoing conversations with our Clackamas County Public Health. The most recent conversations with them have been based upon the fact that we are a long ways away from getting into the hybrid and on-site instruction columns, that they will engage the entire county and the school districts in the entire county when we begin to get closer to the yellow column and eventually the green column on that metrics chart, right? To help us make a determination of whether or not we should be looking closely at Multnomah County's rates, which right now you'll see are significantly higher than Clackamas County. So how are we doing? So as I referenced, what you'll see on this chart is we've now moved from a 3-week look back to a 2-week look back. And so in the top set of data, you want to go to the bottom there and you'll see the most recent 2-week window was from October 25th to November 7th, last weekend. In Clackamas County during that 2-week period, there were 827 cases. You can see it nearly doubled from the previous 2-week window. That came out to about 195 cases per 100,000 people in the county, and the test positivity rate was at 10%. So based on this data, we've got the test positivity rate that's in that pink range. We've got the cases per 100,000 that's at the very upper end of the transition column. And I think we know that when this new data comes out on Monday, Clackamas County will be over that 200 cases per 100,000 threshold. You can see that Multnomah County is already there. You can see that their 3-week trend, they're sitting at 200 last 2 weeks, 245 cases per 100,000 and a test positivity rate over 10.6%. So one of the governor's, as I said, top priorities is getting our youngest learners back into school. And as a result, she has stated that she would consider taking further actions to reduce the spread of the virus. And we saw her do that last week by putting a pause, I think, on 9 counties now that started yesterday and go through, I think, November 25th. I think there's a general sense to see if that has an impact. And obviously they'll evaluate and see if additional kind of stay-at-home orders need to be implemented to stem the spread of this virus. So in addition to some of the components of the metrics that I've already referenced, the new guidance encourages school districts to apply an equity-based decision-making tool in their decision-making process. We fairly deliberately do that in our school district, and I'll share a couple tools here in a second. The metrics also allow a school district to open schools within a 14-day window. So if on a Monday, Clackamas County were to meet the metrics, theoretically a school district would have 2 weeks to initiate in-person instruction, even if the metrics went back up to a higher level. And then once you're in a specific instructional delivery model, you now have a longer window to transition back into comprehensive distance learning. It gives local school districts some flexibility in how quickly they move back to distance learning if the metrics continue to worsen. We continue to be guided by Ready School Safe Learners. That's the overall guiding document from ODE. And within that document, it requires school districts to seek approval from local county health authorities and submit our operational blueprints for re-entry with the Oregon Department of Education. It also requires that we post these blueprints on our website. And right now, the North Clackamas School District is approved for limited in-person instruction. And we are working right now to prepare our blueprints to a place that if we were to meet the metrics for moving into hybrid instruction and that on-site instruction, that we would have our blueprints ready to do that. So that is one of the actions that we're currently taking right now and preparing for. So that kind of summarizes the overall general metrics that apply to all school districts. In addition to those overall metrics, there are 4 exceptions that ODE and the Oregon Health Authority have applied that are allowable for school districts. And here are the 4 that are listed on this slide. And I have highlighted the top one because that is the only one that applies to the North Clackamas School District. That outside of those current metrics I just went over, that school districts are allowed to have some limited in-person instruction for specific groups of students. And what that looks like, right, is ODE references maybe some students that need an enhancement in an effort in addition to comprehensive distance learning. This limited in-person instruction is not a replacement for comprehensive distance learning. It's up to 2 hours a day for a small group of students in a building. And in order for school districts to be able to do that, you have to have strong screening measures in place. You have to comply with the sections 1 through 3 of the Ready School Safe Learners Guidance. You have to make sure that you're in compliance with all the criteria of comprehensive distance learning, as well as that of the limited in-person instruction, which specifies cohort size, times that students can be on campus. Right? It also provides guidance to school districts that if you're in limited in-person instruction and you're seeing rates increase in the county, that it encourages you to pause that limited in-person instruction. I think it's also important to point out that any time that we bring students onto our campuses, it is likely that that will lead to quarantining and isolating students and staff. We'll talk about that briefly in a few minutes. So limited in-person instruction, it requires no more than 20 students at any given time in a given cohort. And a cohort is a kind of a closed group of students that only interacts with each other and with a teacher. Any single staff member can only interact with more than up to three cohorts, or a total of 60 students. And it has removed, these new metrics has removed the previous limit, which had a limit of 250 students present in any given school at any given time. And they have removed that requirement. However, based upon the fact that we are very, very close to reaching that 200 cases per 100,000 individuals in a community, ODE guidance says that we should pause the rolling out of limited in-person instruction. And so I'm letting folks know tonight that that is what North Clackamas is going to do, is pausing the rollout of limited in-person instruction at this time due to these rising COVID rates in the county. And that again is in accordance with the ODE guidance. We do anticipate when the new metrics come out on Monday that Clackamas County will be over 200 cases per 100,000 people. What this doesn't, so if I pause here for just a second, we were in the process of beginning to plan for limited in-person instruction and did not have a large number of students on our campuses. So we're pausing that. What we've also done in the last week is roll out high school athletic training and conditioning pods. Currently, those are going to continue moving forward, and we'll need to continue to monitor how those are going given the drastic increases in cases in the state and in the county. So that brings us now to our current planning. We continue to be guided by a number of documents. Here, of course, the large one there is Ready School Safe Learners. In addition to that, we have guidance on comprehensive distance learning, ensuring that we have equity and access in our instructional delivery models. We have other guidance that's planning for COVID-19 scenarios in our schools, which we are experiencing as we speak. We are continuing to refine comprehensive distance learning. As I referenced, we've been at it 3 months, and we'll continue to refine and revise the virtual online program as well. As I referenced earlier, the state is also strongly recommending that school districts use an equity-based decision tool in their decision-making process. The state has provided the tool on the left, a decision for making equitable decisions, and then I've also shown here a copy of the district's equity lens and a series of questions that we utilize as we're making decisions, not only about instructional delivery models, but overall operations within the school district. So that brings me to what is the school district currently doing. So in addition to continuing to make comprehensive distance learning and a virtual online program better and better, we are taking actions to move towards hybrid instruction. and that is at the elementary level. And so I've highlighted here a series of actions that we're taking or that we need to take. Some folks have asked me, well, why aren't you ready to implement the hybrid model? You had time during the summer to do that. We did plan during the summer for the hybrid model. And then as you recall, in August, the state implemented new metrics, which forced us to stop the design of the hybrid model and move to designing comprehensive distance learning and the virtual online program. And so we're picking up that planning now regarding hybrid instruction. And what we have done so far is new mass requirements came out about 2 weeks ago, and we have implemented those new mass requirements throughout the district. We've also are preparing a survey and getting that translated in 5 of our major languages to go out to families within the next 10 days. And that survey is going to ask our families a number of questions, beyond just will you or will you not return to hybrid instruction, if and when it's offered, but it will ask questions regarding transportation, because we will need to determine how many students we need to transport, how food, what families and students will access food and how they want to access food. So it's a fairly extensive survey that will ask a number of questions. At the same time, we will begin a process, and we have begun a process of surveying our staff to determine who can safely return to in-person hybrid instruction. And that survey will continue with our staff over the course of the next week or so. We also, our Human Resources Department is beginning to reach out to our substitutes. If we were to bring teachers back onto our campuses, administrators and certified staff, classified staff on our campuses, we need to make sure that we have substitutes available should folks become ill or need to access other types of leave. And so we're doing that as well. Once we know how many students and families would return to our buildings in a hybrid model, we can then begin the process of recalling the 200 laid off employees that we laid off back in September. These are primarily bus drivers, nutrition service workers, and daycare workers. And if they're still available, we can recall them. If they are no longer available, we would need to begin really what is a multi-week hiring and training process for new employees. And for transportation, that is difficult. That's a 6 to 8 week process once they're hired, and getting hired is a multi-week process. We also would need to look at the reassignment of students to new teachers as a result of these multiple delivery models. So as we move to a hybrid model of some on-site instruction, we know that some students are going to take advantage of that. We also know that many of our families are not going to take advantage of that. And so we are going to be operating a system of 3 models, I would say, again, none of which existed last March. And so we will need to continue with comprehensive distance learning for those families that just don't feel comfortable and don't feel it's safe for their child to return to the school site. We'll continue operating the virtual online program, and we will move to add this hybrid model. The result of operating 3 different programs and shifting mid-year is going to require students changing teachers. And I want to make sure that our community and our parents understand that. We will need to reshuffle students from their teachers based upon who wants to stay in person, or who wants to stay in CDL, and who wants to move to the online model. And we just simply do not have the financial resources to add more teachers to make this model work. And so there will be, again, the reassignment of students to different teachers in this model. Right? Our staff is going to need training in the numerous safety protocols that are in place when we have students in person in our buildings. And our teachers are going to need to think about how they instruct students in an in-person model that is still different from what it was prior to March 13th of last year. right? In this hybrid model, students and teachers will be wearing masks the full time that they're together. Students will need to maintain 6 feet distance from other students and the teacher. So we will need to rethink what partner work looks like, what small group works like, what reading groups look like in an environment that really does not allow for students to sit, knee to knee, toe to toe, sit on the carpet next to each other while the teacher's potentially reading a book to them. We'll be needing to build new schedules, as I referenced, in student rosters that reflect 3 different models in our school system. We'll need to redesign bus routes, right, based upon who's going to come back into our schools, and safety protocols for those buses, which recommend that we maintain some distance between students. And obviously, there will need to be a lot of parent notification throughout this process. So that leads me to my last slide, which is kind of begins to address the timeline. And you'll notice that this is not particularly specific. And one of the reasons why it is not specific is we have learned over the course of the last 8 months that we do not control this virus. This virus controls us and how we, and therefore it is about how we respond to that. So what we're looking at is that approximately 2 weeks after Clackamas County would meet these new health metrics, but not before winter break, the district would transition to that hybrid instructional model for kindergarten and first grade students. At that same time, individual families would still be provided the opportunity for comprehensive distance learning. And then grades 2 and 3 would be added again within approximately 2 weeks, assuming that those metrics continued to go down. And then we would stop there, we assess where we are with kindergarten through 3rd grade, and we would consider adding additional grades again after that initial kindergarten through 3rd grade start. But I think that is again pretty far out on where we're based. So I share this with the board tonight, with our staff and with our community, right? Knowing that this virus is really gaining momentum for being out of control. Within the first week of bringing students back onto our campuses for high school athletics, we've now had 2 pods that are quarantined, and students and the coaches are being quarantined and isolated. Each day this week, I have been notified that we have staff at numerous schools and sites that are also have been impacted and are being asked by county health to quarantine and to isolate themselves. So when folks ask me, well, when do you think we're going to meet these, when is Clackamas County going to meet these new metrics? In full transparency, I really believe it is probably several months away before we can probably say that these metrics are going to continue, or these metrics are going to start dropping and get to a place in which we could move into a hybrid model. I've read today several reports, research reports, and several studies. Most of it is not good news. Most of it is saying that within the next couple of weeks, Oregon will see today's current rates double and perhaps even go above that. So as a state, we've got a lot of work to do to safely return our students to school. And I would just encourage everyone to continue to wear that mask, continue to wash your hands, maintain physical distance from each other, and do not socialize with others outside your family. So with that, I'm going to stop and I am open to taking the board's questions.
Thank you, Matt, for that very comprehensive report. Appreciate the time and effort that you and your team put in to give us that information. I'll go around, Robin, to everyone and see if you have questions or comments. But like I said earlier, please remember that if you do not have a comment, you're not required to say anything or to ask any questions. It's just an equitable way to do it online. So Director McVeigh, what do you got for us? I think he's managing 2 meetings, right? So Director Way.
Thank you, Superintendent, for the presentation. I just have one clarifying question. So if we do, in fact, go to the limited in person with the small group of students, will we be doing temperature checks or just taking additional precautions before students are actually back in the classroom?
Yeah, the current guidance does not require temperature checks, and you can imagine a large school, let's say like a high school, trying to do 2,000 temperature checks or half that amount. Let's just say 1,300 temperature checks in the case of class. It would be a challenge. And so the system requires parents to do a screen with their child in the morning. And then we also will do a screen on the bus and do a screen when students come into the school, to make sure that they don't look feverish, that they don't have a cough, right? That they generally look healthy. And then there's protocols to follow when we have a student that falls outside those guidelines. I believe we are doing temperature checks for athletics, these after school pods. Again, they're much smaller numbers. There's like 10 students per pod, and it makes it a little easier to manage that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Director Way. Director McVeigh, did you have something?
Nope, I'm good.
Director Perez.
I do.
We heard you at first. Right now, I think you're back on now.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
I'm good at this time. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Director Benaloga?
Yes, thank you for the presentation. I just had a quick question about the athletics. Now you're saying that they're going to be open, but there's a possibility that we're not going to be able to have those. Is there a specific, or what threshold are you looking at to where we wouldn't be able to hold those small athletic pods either?
Yeah, I think it really, Gina, is going to be in conversations with our health department, with other, just seeing where these, how rapidly the community spread is happening, in our community. It's going to be looking at the number of pods that we're having to isolate. Really, at some point, right, we need to really throughout this whole process, right, we're looking at the risks to our students and our staff.
Right.
And what I can share right now is we've had one pod that was impacted because that coach of that pod also worked in another pod. Right, we've got some coaches that have also been isolated. So it really is going to be a day-by-day assessment and working with our health authority and conversations with other school districts about where they are. I will say I am very worried about where we're headed right now as a state. Very, very worried. The number of cases that we're seeing in our school district is mirroring, right, the increase that we're seeing across the county and across the state and country.
All right, thank you.
I can't offer you a specific yet. Right? We're just know that the health, safety, and care of our students and staff is our top priority. And when we feel that we've crossed that threshold, we'll stop that.
And I just have one other quick question. When you say that you've paused the rollout of the limited in person, I understand that you're pausing the actual start, but can you just clarify for the community, does that mean you're not? I mean, there's still behind the scenes planning going on.
Correct.
Given that we're hoping that it's going to happen. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So not only are we doing all that planning that I referenced to get ready to move to the hybrid model at the elementary level, we also have our levels are preparing for what limited in-person instruction could look like as well. Again, when those numbers come down that allow us safety to do that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Director Shado.
Thank you, Chair. I've got two clarifying questions, and then I have, I'm sorry to say, but I have three other questions. So clarifying question one, Superintendent, I heard you say something like reduce the spread, schools are not super spreaders. My concern, or I guess what I should, let me say it this way. There were some school districts that did open up for small in-person class instruction. They all closed down. Do we have lessons learned from those institutions that opened up and closed down so that we don't do the same type of mistakes if we were to be opening up, or do we? And so that's more of just a statement of, do we have that? Because otherwise I fear that we just would repeat history.
Yep. And I think I'll be fully transparent. We likely will repeat history. What we know from school districts that have opened, not only in Oregon, across the country and actually across the world, is that there is very little evidence that this virus spreads in a school environment in which you have the fairly strict and rigid health and safety protocols, like Oregon has. But what you're referencing, right, is that doesn't mean that folks aren't getting exposed outside the school environment. And then they come into the school environment, right, as potentially an infected person. And what results then is that, right, we're contacted by the health authority or by the family, and then we're required to take those actions. And in most cases, that is out of an abundance of safety. We're going to quarantine that group or isolate that group, likely for 14 days. And we're seeing that happen right now with staff in the district who they're getting exposed to someone who is infected outside of the school district, outside of their work environment. But because they were exposed, we're asking them, or the health department has directed them to quarantine. So, and that is going to happen. I think, I referenced in my opening comments that, there will be quarantining and isolation happening ongoing when we start in-person instruction, the limited in-person instruction. And if we ever get to the hybrid model, we would be quarantining and isolating, individuals and or classrooms.
And I'll share with the community, I mean, and with everybody here, everybody understands eventually we will be back in person. The question is, how does it happen? How do we keep everybody safe, kind of thing? Thank you for that answer, Matt. Superintendent Utterback. In one of the slides, it had some bullet points, but the second bullet point, you referenced schools have a 14-day window to open from the date the metrics are met. But I think I heard you say, if the metric was met like on a Monday and the 14 days has happened and we were to reopen, even if the numbers went back up, we could still be
Correct.
in, even though if we became but I'm sure we would have some type of, oh my goodness, this is exponentially growing. We're not going to stay open just because we can. Is that accurate?
Yeah, and part of that, in talking with the Oregon Department of Education, right, what they realize is that school districts just can't flip a switch and meet the metrics on Monday and then open on Tuesday. Right? We are a very large system, and I outlined some of the things that we need to do in order for us, from the moment we meet the metrics to when we could open, would be about at least a 2-week window. And so the state wanted to provide some grace and some safe safe harbor for school districts in that window. So yes, you could meet on Monday, start planning to open, and then the next Monday you bump up again into that transition category. And you can live in that transition category, right, for a number of weeks. And again, it's a local decision at that point. And so, we would be coming to you and saying, okay, we opened in the hybrid. We now are living in that transition, that orange zone. We've been living there for 2 weeks or 3 weeks maybe, and the rates continue to go up. I likely would come to you at that point and say, we need to go back into comprehensive distance learning.
Okay. So I'll say I'm not a big fan of metrics being changed when I look at other states and other places around the planet. You know, it just absolutely reminds me of what took place in an Olympic year in a foreign country where the air pollution was impossible to breathe. You couldn't see past a half of a football field. They just changed the numbers to say, oh, it's safe, but it still was, you couldn't see past a half football field. So I would say changing the numbers doesn't change the fact of what's happening in California and Texas. You know, there's a million cases per state. And so we are very blessed to have such low numbers, even though they are rising. With that said, I want to build on top of what something Kathy said about temperature checks. I mean, there are technology, there are FLIR/heat cameras that can pick up if a student were to have a hotter temperature than another. And I say that because I think all parents could probably agree as well. There's been times we've sent our children to school when they've had a cold. One time in the entire educational cycle, we probably have made bad choices. And if they make a bad choice, other people get to pay the price. And so I don't know what technology would cost for that, but it really depends on what the model is. So that's a statement, not a question. I do have two less questions. Superintendent, in a model of being closed or CDL, not taking into account metrics, and we just talk about 3 months as an example. If CDL happened for 3 months versus if we came in person and then we had to close a grade because we had an outbreak, or close a wing of a school, or close the entire school, the opening and closing that could take place in a 3-month window from spreading. I see that as a big impact to community, students, and staff. Have you thought about that and the impact that would actually be on who would get farther along in the educational process and not get sick and have a risk of death?
Yeah, you raise a great point, Stephen, in that we know that when we bring students and staff back onto our campuses, we know that somebody who's been infected out in the community is going to come into the school setting, and then they're going to realize that maybe they were sick or they've been exposed, and we're going to need to isolate and quarantine a classroom or classrooms. And that means that we're going to need to shift back into comprehensive distance learning. And you know, I would hope that when that happens, that we're not doing it to the same classrooms over and over. But yes, that is a possibility. But parents need to, you know, and one of the reasons when we send this survey out to our parents in the next couple of days, we're explaining to them, really trying to paint a picture of what in-person is going to look like. Right. It very well could mean first of all, you're wearing a mask, you know, for the full time that you're on campus. You're not, you know, getting close to other kids or the teacher. You know, you're maintaining that social distance. You are, you know, you are certainly taking the risk of having to be quarantined when, you know, if and when that happens. And yes, we could be going back and forth between in-person and CDL and in-person and CDL. I feel a little bit better about that in the fact that our teachers now have experienced, you know, comprehensive distance learning as well as our students. So I think falling back into CDL for a 2-week time period is not going to be maybe as disruptive as it would have been had we not had CDL previously. But yeah, I will say parents will need to go into this hybrid model with all the information that we're talking about tonight and make a decision right, based upon where their family is with regards to, you know, the model and how it's going to be designed and the risks that are associated with that.
And my last question for where we're at in the process at this time is, in the past, we have heard we don't have COVID insurance. So what has changed to mitigate the risk, even though that's a financial risk? Financial risk is nothing compared to the loss of life. So what has changed?
Nothing from a really liability standpoint. There is, I will share two pieces of information with you. There is some talk of a potential, would it be a third special session potentially before the end of the year for the state to deal with some issues associated with the wildfires. And there are some conversations about potentially having a liability bill come through that special session. If not there, there is conversation about that happening in the general session, legislative session, starting at the end of January. I do believe there is a legislative committee that is working on this issue. Don't quote me on that, but I do believe there is. I think we all as superintendents remain hopeful of having some liability, protection as we work to bring students back onto campus. But at this point, Stephen, to answer your question, nothing has changed.
I want to say thank you for everybody to indulging me for those kind of things. The closing statement I would just say to the community is, I spent time with the epidemiology people from Salem, and the concerns I have with pre-symptomatic, asymptomatic students. A lot of people can say, hey, kids don't get sick at a higher rate, don't have mortality rates, but they do go home to parents and grandparents, and they do spread. And so I think I have a lot of questions. I think we all have a lot of good questions. So thank you for my time. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Director Schradel. Director Bauer.
Okay, I know we're getting short on time. One question I had was, if 50%, I'm making this up, 50% of students want to return and only say 25% of our staff are at risk and don't feel safe to return, what do you do?
It's one of the reasons why we're having all our principals right now having conversations with our elementary staff to have those conversations face to face, and versus just doing a survey that gives us a broad brush of where folks are. When we've surveyed our parents, and I won't be surprised when we survey them again, our community seems to be pretty split on coming back to school versus staying in CDL. And I think I am not going to be surprised if the results were to come back and it says 50% of our community says, is going to send their kids back to school and 50% are going to keep them in CDL. Keeping our staff in CDL will allow us to work with our staff and identify staff that, maybe the best teaching model for them is in that CDL model. Did I answer your question, Mitzi?
Yeah, you did. And I really appreciate the detail, because I think it's making it real to parents that hybrid, again, is just 2 days. There's, problems with daycare and all of that. One really quick last one is the CARES Act in the county. We're talking about some possible daycare programs in the county. Is that on hold? Do you know anything about that?
I've not heard any more. What we did hear was that the city of Beaverton applied for their CARES dollars to provide daycare to families within the Beaverton school district. And I've not heard anyone in Clackamas County, any city agency or county agency using their CARES dollars in that way.
Thank you for all of the details and the huge amount of work that you and your staff have done. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone. I just have 4 points. I just want to make sure that I say thank you, Superintendent, for all of this information. In the beginning, you stated all the things that our teachers are doing and how you've been visiting classes. And I just want to add to your list, which is already pretty long, of what the teachers are doing to be the best that they can be with what they've been giving. As they work with all the tools are also changing. And so they have no control over that. And because this whole thing is affecting the world in a very complicated way. So I just want everyone to be aware of that additional thing on their list of managing everything that's going on. And then the metrics, I think I just want to reiterate that it is highly encouraged that we use an equity decision tool in even these things. So yes, we are looking at black and white numbers. Yes, we are looking at all of these processes and practices, but the equity tool also has to be used in making those decisions. And I want to say that OSBA is trying to work with legislation to get that insurance coverage or state in coverage or something to help schools feel more comfortable. And the last thing I want to say in all of this is there's a lot of discussion here about what the school district is doing, but I will say, I want to say this to parents, parent to parent, you need to prepare. Because whatever this is going to be, it will affect you in ways that you need to prepare for. Now, what that means for you is going to mean different for every single household, but this is not just a school district preparation. And our expectations of having them have a plan is great, but as a family, you need to have a plan. So I encourage you to learn as much as you can and learn what's available to you. It's just as simple as 2 days a week going to school. If everybody in the school district is going to school those 2 days and you need childcare, guess what? It won't be available. So you need to prepare. So with that being said, I don't think we have anything else. Tori, you had a question last time about the parity and the way the metrics are. Do you feel like this answers your question? Director McVeigh?
Sorry, absolutely, yes.
Cool. Excellent, thank you. That was a hanging thing from last time, so I appreciate that. All right, so we're gonna take a 5-minute break. It is now 6:33, so 6:38, if everyone can return for our actual, we're moving into our open session. I'll just give you guys a little breather and then we'll get started with our open session. Cool, thank you guys. If you could just turn your camera off until 6:38.
Okay, we're on a 5-minute break. We ran over on our work session. Ron's still connecting.
Welcome, everybody. We are on a short intermission between our work session this evening and our regular session. Just a couple of things. If you're not speaking, please keep your mic on mute. You have the ability to change your name. We ask that you do put your full staff name in. You just click on the little more, or hover over your name, you can change your name, and we will begin shortly. If you have any questions, just raise your hand and I will be sure to address it.
Cindy, Sandra, this is Libra. I just have a question on who is doing our NCEA feature educator presentations.
Andrea should be here.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
I'm here. Here I am.
Hey, Andrea.
Welcome,
Hello.
And we are live streaming on YouTube, just letting you know that.
Great. And we're also doing a little watch party. So I got a watch party going here. Got the. We're just going to have to see how it goes. We'll just see.
Learning new things with technology every single day.
And there's Kelly.
Okay, we'll begin in 1 minute. I see all of our board members are back. Hello, everyone. It's 6:38. Thank you for coming back with us. We are now moving into our open session of the North Clackamas School Board meeting. Happy Thursday. Thank you for joining us on this lovely day. In addition to that, I just want to give a belated Happy Veterans Day to all of our veterans out there, not just ones that have served in the past and will also in any time in the future, and all families associated with that veteran. Thank you for your service. We will begin our meeting with a call to order by starting with our native land acknowledgement. Director Bauer, are you ready to give that to us?
Yes, thank you, Chair Ford. We acknowledge the land on which we sit and which we call the North Clackamas School District, which rests on the traditional and indigenous lands and village sites of the native peoples of the Kalapuya, Chinook, Molalla, and Clackamas. We take this opportunity to offer gratitude for the ability to learn, work, and be a community on this land, and we offer thanks to the original caretakers of this region. We recognize the historic policies of colonization, genocide, relocation, and assimilation that affected Indigenous and Native families, both past and present, and that will affect those in the future, and honor the resilience and revitalization of our Indigenous and Native communities. We pay our respects to the elders, both past and present, who have been the stewards of this land throughout the generations.
Thank you, Director Bauer. Moving right into our first action item, which is our minutes. We have minutes from October 17, 2020 and October 22nd, 2020. October 17th is our work governance session, and October 22nd is our regular session. I'll open the floor for a motion. I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, I know, Sandra, you can't get off, but Director Schrader, I'll ask you just for some feedback. I have to do these minutes separately as a vote, correct? Okay, cool. All right, so I'll open up the floor just so you're aware. Open the floor first for October 17, 2020 minutes. Do I have a motion?
Motion to motion to approve the October 2020 minutes.
Excellent, properly motioned.
Schradel, second.
Excellent, properly moved and second. Any discussion needed? I can see you all, so. Perfect. We'll go into a vote. Director McVeigh?
Aye.
Director Way?
Aye.
Director Perez?
Aye.
Director Benaloga?
Aye.
Director Schrader?
Aye.
Director Bauer,
Aye.
and Director Ford is also aye. Thank you. Open the floor now for October 22nd, 2020, our regular session minutes. Do I have a motion?
Schradel, move approval of October 22nd meeting minutes.
Do I have a second?
Way second.
Excellent, thank you. Any discussion needed? Excellent. Moving into our roll call vote. Director Bauer,
Aye.
Director Stradle,
Aye.
Director Benaloga,
Aye.
Director Perez,
Aye.
Director Way,
Aye.
and Director McVeigh,
Aye.
and myself is also aye. Thank you, guys. Let's moving right along to our next section, which is the consent agenda. We currently have 2 items on there: employment changes and policy revisions. I'll open up the floor for a motion.
Schradel, move approval of, I'm sorry, I don't have enough screen real estate. The employment changes, and what was the second thing? I apologize.
Policy revisions.
And policy revisions.
Thank you. Second?
Bowers, second.
Excellent. Properly moved in second. Any discussion needed? Excellent. Director McVeigh, we're going for a vote.
Oh, my fingers aren't working. Aye.
Director Way.
I think she's frozen.
See, oh, maybe. Okay, we'll come back to it. Director Perez.
Aye.
It's a perfect freeze, actually. Director Benaloga.
Aye.
Director Schrader.
Aye.
Director Bauer.
Aye.
And myself is also aye, even with Director Way not being here. Is she back here yet? Okay, we're moving right along. Those are our only action items we have on our agenda. So we're going to move right into our community request today. And I'll have to read our policy, which is BDDH. In the middle section of that says anyone wishing to speak before the board, either as an individual or as a member of a group, may do so by following the district's guidelines for public comment. These printed guidelines are available at each board meeting. Any individual desiring to speak will submit their name, address, and the group, if any, that is represented, and a speaker should give their name and the group, if any, that is represented, and should limit his or her presentation to 3 minutes. Time may be extended at the discretion of the board chair. Speakers may offer objective criticism of district operations and programs that are of concern to them. The board is restricted from hearing and will not consider complaints regarding any individual district staff member or any person connected with the district. At this time, I believe we have 1 community request. Am I correct, Cindy?
Yes, one in person. Others had emailed you directly. Christina Moran is here. Christina, go ahead and unmute yourself, and you may turn your camera on or keep off, whatever you like. There she is. Hi, Christina.
Excellent. And Christina, when you speak, I just have a process that I use so that you're aware of your time. When you get to about midsection, you'll see the yellow piece of paper come up on my screen. When you have 1 minute left, you'll see a red piece of paper come up on my screen. Thank you. Go ahead and begin.
Okay, hello everybody. I'm honored to be here and talking to all of you tonight. My name's Christina Moran. I teach ELD, that's English Language Development at Vern Duncan Elementary. It's my 7th year in the district, and I come with no criticism of anybody. In fact, I come just representing, I think, all of us. But I just wanted to give you like a window into my world, because I don't see that represented anywhere in any reports or on any news stories or anything. So I just thought that it might influence maybe some of your understanding of what's going on that we don't all see every day, unless you're in my unique situation. So when I started here 7 years ago, but this is my 4th or 5th year teaching ELD. And what my job was before the pandemic hit was I had about a caseload at our school about almost 100 active ELD students, of which I've been teaching the 2nd through 5th grade as the full-time ELD instructor, and I teach and share with my half-time coworker. So 2nd through 5th grade, I've had about last year, close to 70 students on my caseload who I would see every single day for 30 minutes as I pulled them from their class into a small group, according to grade level, into my classroom, where we would have, the smallest group was 25, which was not a small group. But other than that, I had about 17 to 12 students. And I would have them every day, 30 minutes, the same 30 minutes, just me and them working on our language development, because all of them speak English as a second language or along with their other first language. And my job now is, although the caseload has dropped a little bit, and not that much, it's changed. So now I have about 82 total students at school, and 58 of them are on my cohort, my caseload. So when I see them now, I'm assigned to each classroom that I teach now once a week for 30 minutes. I teach 14 classes, 2nd through 5th grade. I teach all of them science. And I see my ELD caseload kids, never. But I still have to give them report cards and report on their progress, but they don't show up. So my whole point is, I think it's great that everybody's getting ELD from me, and I get to talk to all of these kids because it's great language development. And I know I can provide that for everybody, and I love it. But the ELD kids are not clocking in. They're not coming to class. They might sometimes come to their morning meeting, but they do not volunteer in class. Although I have about 5 out of my 58 that are very active when I see them. The rest don't talk, don't turn on their camera. I call home, I visit homes I'm not supposed to, I bring them materials. I may or may not go inside their houses and sit with them and try to teach them how to use the computers, and have nonstop conversations with the parents about how this is so hard for them. And I understand, if you don't speak the language, if you haven't gone to school yourself, and you don't know the material, you can't help your child. And when you have to work every day, as these parents do, because they're all unanimously low income, they cannot access comprehensive distance learning. This is a program that's made for white students who have parents that have education and can help them in any way. I just want you guys to know that while I know I'm doing a great job teaching, and I love what I do, and I love working with all these kids, I'm not reaching the people I'm here to reach, that my passion is for. I speak Spanish, I understand their world, and I'm doing everything I can round the clock while I try to teach science, which I don't know how to do, but I'm learning. I just worry about the kids who I'm here to advocate for. And I don't know who's telling you about them or where they're coming up, because there's no data on them and where they're going and what we're doing. Probably over time, but I'm going to come every week and I'm going to keep telling you guys about these people, because they're a big portion of our population, and it's growing and growing, and they're just dropping faster than anyone else. Thanks for your time.
Thank you so much for coming and giving us that testimonial. We appreciate it. Moving into our agenda, the next thing on there is our NCEA featured educator, and we have Miss Andrea here to give us that presentation. Are you here?
I'm here.
There you go.
I'm here. Hi, everybody. Thank you. It's nice to see you all. For the month of November, NCEA asked our elementary level colleagues to nominate a kindergarten, 1st, or 2nd grade teacher who is finding creative and effective ways to teach, engage, and demonstrate care for our youngest, squirreliest, and least experienced students in CDL. I am thrilled to present Kelly Wright, 1st grade teacher at Ardenwald Elementary, as the NCEA Educator of the Month for November. There she is. Fellow nominees included Beth Lawrence from Scouters Mountain, Natalie Arias from Milwaukee El Puente, Rachel Wong from Oak Grove, and Stephanie Archibald, our first ever nominee from Clackamas Web Academy. I mentioned these educators here tonight because I know Kelly would want to make sure her fellow primary colleagues were also recognized for their great work. Kelly has been part of the North Clackamas School District for 15 years, we think. The unique part of Kelly's nominations is that they came from all over the district, from colleagues past and present, from within her building and outside of her building. Clearly, Kelly has made a tremendous impact, not only on her Ardenwald community, but also the entire North Clackamas School District community. Michelle Emra, a teacher at View Acres Elementary, writes, Kelly has embraced CDL wholeheartedly. She created Google Slides over the summer that helped jumpstart the entire reading program for the primary grades. She works hard to make things easy for others and shares every piece of everything she does. It doesn't matter if you are her student, her team partner, her colleague, or work at a different building entirely, Kelly will do anything to be helpful. From Belicia Castellano, a colleague at Ardenwald, Mrs. Kelly Wright is a strong part of the Ardenwald staff, always sharing her resources and creative ideas with her teammates and other colleagues. Each year, Kelly forms deep and meaningful connections with her students and their families, and has continued to do this during CDL by maintaining communication with all families, showing how much she cares for their children and filling her online lessons with fun and joy to foster a love of learning in her students. Also from Ardenwald, Kirsten Lutgrat. Kelly is always eager to make an engaging, positive experience for her students and help the parents along the way. Kelly enjoys sharing her teacher-created ideas and lessons with other teachers and feels good that she can make teaching a bit easier for someone else. Google Slides of beautifully enhanced curriculum read-aloud books are being used in many classrooms because of her work. Students, parents, teachers, school support staff, and others benefit from the natural ability Kelly Wright has to just be herself. Wait, there's more Kelly. From Wendy Brenstetter, a teacher at Riverside Elementary. Kelly has gone above and beyond, not only creating material that all first grade teachers in the district can use for language arts, but has been extremely willing to share them. She created a literacy assessment that several schools have used as well. I know that Kelly deeply cares about her students. She is thoughtful, thorough, and comes up with creative ideas to teach, even when we aren't face to face. And finally, from Janelle Menzia Murphy, a counselor at Llewellyn Elementary. Kelly Wright is an educator with a huge heart. She goes above and beyond to make sure students feel valued, honored, and listened to in the classroom. While doing so, she never forgets that school is meant to be a place of joy. While she has a gift for working with students, she has an equal gift of working with families and making them feel included in the classroom and school community. Working with Kelly always felt like we had a cheerleader for adults on site, a quality I always admired and appreciated. Kelly is a primary teacher beyond worthy of being recognized by NCEA. Members of the board and the North Clackamas community, it is my pleasure this evening to introduce a friend of mine and the wonderful and talented NCEA Educator of the Month, Kelly Wright. And Kelly, you can go ahead and say some words if you'd like.
Well, goodness, thank you so very much. That's very overwhelming and wonderful. I am very lucky and have felt very blessed and lucky to be a part of North Clackamas School District. I grew up in it. My children have been raised in it. My husband works in the district. Our heart is North Clackamas School District. And I just do really enjoy sharing things with people. And I feel like the more we do that, the more cohesive it makes us as a district, and that we help each other out. And I just have an amazing team at Ardenwald. I get to work with Belicia Castellano and Kirsten Lutgrote, and they are, I mean, we work as a team like I can't believe. It is just a real blessing, and it shares the load and brings us a lot of joy. I'm wearing my blue glasses because I have 2 students in my class who wear prescription glasses, and they're blue. So I had to buy a blue pair so that I am connecting with them as much as we can through this time of learning through a screen with each other, but we're finding ourselves laughing and sharing joy and learning. And so I'm very excited about that. And also, it's my birthday today. So kind of fun present. Thank you so much.
Well, congratulations and happy birthday. Or as my father would say, happy personal new year to you.
Thank you.
All right, I'll go around and see if you guys have something to say. Again, it's no obligation. Miss Kelly Wright is not giving you a report card, so you don't have to. Director Bauer, what you got for us?
Congratulations, A+.
Director Strado. Director Strado.
Oh, happy birthday and congratulations.
Thank you.
Director Benaloga.
Congratulations and happy birthday.
Thank you.
Thanks for spending it with us, or at least part of it.
My pleasure.
Director Perez.
Yes, happy birthday. What a special day in more ways than one. Congratulations. And I just want to say, it's when you talked about how, you connect with your students and families, and it just sounds like you create a village. And that's what it's about, the including and making everyone feel belonged, and awesome. That's should be. It should be a village all the time. So awesome work. Keep up the great work.
Thank you so much.
Director Way.
Yes, happy Scorpio season to you, and thank you so much for taking care of our kids and teaching them, and especially in this very much so unprecedented time. Thank you.
And Director McVeigh.
Happy birthday. Thank you for everything you do. Checks in the mail.
Beautiful. Thank you very much.
Not literally. I will say that since we're recording.
I know.
I think it might have gotten lost.
Yeah.
Yeah, it always does.
Okay. Thank you guys. Appreciate it. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Right. Excellent. I just want to make a note, Sandra, before we move on to the next agenda item. Director Way was kicked out for our last vote for the consent agenda. She is now returned. But if we can make that note in the minutes, just so that the voting doesn't look weird to people, I think those technology notes are important just for historical knowledge.
Will do.
Thank you. So next thing on our agenda is Rock Creek Middle School. They will be doing a presentation for us, and we have Miss Libby Miller here with us. I saw her. There she is.
Hey.
Hello.
Hey, good evening, everybody. Good to see everybody. It is truly, truly my pleasure to introduce a rock star team at Rock Creek Middle School. John Brooks is their fearless leader, and he will introduce his team. Rock Creek, come on in. They said they were waiting outside and it was getting cold, but they're in now.
Yeah, thanks for letting us in. Hey, I would be remiss if I didn't jump on board. Happy birthday, Kelly Wright.
Yeah.
All of North Clackamas wishes you a good one. That is fantastic. What a great evening. Thank you, Director Ford, Chair Ford, and all the directors. We are pleased to be here tonight and so excited to get a chance to share with you. We love Rock Creek. We're proud of Rock Creek, and there are some great things going on. I would be remiss if I did not introduce the real power behind the screen here. First of all, that's Trisha Hallinan, one of our assistant principals. Not only has she saved my bacon with technology this year, I am a dinosaur, but she is a very insightful and thoughtful person that's brought a lot to our team. Also, our other assistant principals, Aaron Moreno. Sometimes we call him Rev because he can preach it. Sometimes we call him the mayor because I don't think there's anybody he doesn't know. But I echo Libby. We are so blessed. We have an incredible team, and the other two folks are such gifted and talented leaders, and they're helping shape some real good work at Rock Creek. We hope tonight we can give you a little glimpse into what's going on. This is obviously a year that's different than any other in my 29 years of education, but we're finding some real positives coming out of this year. And our pretty picture just went away. Wait, here it comes. All right. You still there, Tricia? Fantastic. If you want to slip to the next slide, there we go. So this year we have really tried to focus on these three words: to connect and care and engage. And it's really been very intentional and very practical. These three words and these phrases reflect our mission about knowing each student and knowing their story and their needs and empowering each one. So it really narrows it and distills it down, and it gives us some focus to have some practical application in a tough year. It's also based in brain science. We did some work, if you're ever familiar with the work of Dr. Perry, who talks about regulate, relate, and reason. These are steps that you need to do when you're working with a dysregulated middle schooler, but it turns out adults need it in time of crisis as well. So we're going to frame some of our work tonight around connect, care, and engagement. One way that we tried to bring some regulation or calm to folks is with some really clear communication. We started back in mid-August, sending regular newsletter communication to parents in a new format. We asked our office staff early this year to reach out and contact all the parents that had not activated their Parent View accounts and those that had been identified as not having access to their technology yet. We wanted to make sure that folks were able to log in, that they had clear information to try to reduce some of the anxiety and stress around this brand new start to the year. Teachers also called home and invited each and every kid to the orientation. We've utilized Facebook a little bit more, and through the help of my wonderful techie assistant, Tricia, we have a comprehensive distance learning bulletin board on the front of our webpage where parents can have a one-stop shop where they can find teachers, classes, and all the information they need. Connecting with our kids was the biggest priority for us. We wanted to lay the groundwork by connecting with parents, but one of the biggest ways we connected with students was the community and connections class. Think of that as kind of like your homeroom or the advisory that maybe you had when you were in school. It's a small group, 20 or less. And this is the group that kids first met when they started school. They did the orientation week together and got to know a small group and connect with one teacher. They now meet once a week and they have very intentional lessons. We started with some organization and executive functioning. And in recent weeks, as things were a little bit more chaotic in our world, we focused on kindness and gratitude. We're going to use the community and connection format as a way to do student-led conferences here in a few weeks. And it has proven what research already showed, that in middle school, having an advisory period in curriculum is important because a big part of middle school is about relationships and connecting. And community and connections class has proved to be something that's been helpful now and will help us in the future. These are just a couple examples of some parent communication that we received earlier this fall. And I think it really speaks volumes to our incredible staff and the efforts they put forth to think about connecting and caring and engaging families. Some of these comments speak to the communication, but a lot of it talks about the efforts of the teachers and how much families can feel that they're trying to connect with their kids. And we're just really proud of our staff. We'll talk about them some more. They have made the start of this year just incredible as we try to control those things we can control.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Brooks, for sharing with us about how Rock Creek is really connecting with our learning community. And so our the next portion of this is teams, counselors, and care. And really care or support is a large part of what we provide for our students and staff on a daily basis here at the mid-level. And this has only been magnified during comprehensive distance learning, or CDL, right? So one intentional effort that demonstrates how we are caring for every student is displayed by our current team model and our redefined Kid Talk structures. So the middle school schedule allows us to create student schedules in which they are all on teams. So approximately 130 students share the same 3 core teachers throughout the day, and those core subject areas are language arts, math, and science. This is the first tier really of our support system that serves our student body. Our second tier is created and fortified by our school counselors who meet with teachers regularly to provide intervention support. And then finally, our third tier is created by our counselors, our admin, and our specialists, i.e. engagement specialists or learning specialists, to support really our most vulnerable students. This multi-tiered system of support allows us to get to know every student, both their story and individual needs. CDL has emphasized the need to continue creating this robust care system. At times we have been limited in the interventions we can provide because of building resources, and would benefit from additional social emotional supports like a social worker or after school clubs. Next, we have for you a few staff voices. Here's a short vignette showcasing some of our wonderful and amazing staff who are making outstanding and intentional efforts during this difficult and trying time.
Hi, I'm Carol York, and I teach 6th grade science at Rock Creek Middle School, and kids are awesome. I'm starting now, it's taken a little longer, but I'm starting to get to know different personalities, and the kids want to be here and they want to learn. They're doing fantastic, considering. Teachers are also spending lots of extra time helping students navigate the technical issues or Google Classroom. We're taking extra time to help parents navigate this online issues. So I think there are a lot of good things that are happening at Rock Creek, and I think our students know that we are there to support them.
Hello, Mr. Gilmore here. I teach media arts and tech 6 at RCMS. I am really impressed with our staff. Our staff has just been an amazing for each other as well as the students. They have come together as a team, helping out students and figuring out ways to connect with families that are having difficulty. I'm so happy to work with the people that I do. They're very creative and adaptable.
Hi, my name is Jackie Fitzgerald. I am new to Rock Creek and to North Clackamas this year, and very excited to be new to such a great school and district. So I think my moment of care and connection is really happening all over the place, but especially in my grade level team, where I feel like I'm not ever alone in supporting individual students. I really feel like we have each other's back, which feels awesome.
Hi, my name is Mrs. Tinker. This is my second year teaching, my second year at Rock Creek Middle School. And I just want to say from the very start, I felt extremely welcomed and part of the Rock Creek family and community, and just felt that I was welcomed with open arms. I've always been supported since day one, and it's just an incredible feeling as a new teacher to have that kind of support.
Hi, I'm Bai Zhang, counselor at Rock Creek Middle School, and I really appreciate the community that is building around it. I really appreciate Jonathan Gilmore in putting out Rock TV every week with a lot of enthusiasm and creativity. All teachers for putting a lot of extra effort into all the work that we've been putting out there. And also our office staff, our secretaries, for putting a lot of effort in welcoming our students. And above all, I want to thank all our students, the 900 plus of them who are putting so much effort in all of this. Rock Creek, we got this.
Hi, I'm Matt Lambert. I teach engineering at Rock Creek Middle School. Care and connection at Rock Creek. I think that the staff is doing a really incredible job of caring for and connecting with each other. There's a lot of mutual support happening during our staff meetings over email and PLCs and chats. People are just really responsive and checking in with each other about the emotional level too. So the staff is super supportive and connect with each other. I'm also seeing staff working really, really hard to make connections with students, to remember the emotional piece, and to just really show kids that we're there for them during a really crazy time.
There we go.
Hi, everybody. All right. So I'm going to talk a little bit about instruction and activities and about engagement. So when we think about engagement, we remember that our teachers, students, and families have had to pivot on a dime. In comprehensive distance learning, we are still focusing on teaching to the whole middle school student, on improving and growing teacher practice, and allowing students time to explore their curiosities. Our current focus of instruction is to introduce students to the many tools and platforms that they're experiencing. The tools and platforms that they are learning are providing more opportunities for both engagement and student collaboration. One powerful byproduct, however, that CDL has offered us or given us is the opportunity to look more deeply at our grading practices and really begin to analyze them through a lens of equity. That has been a very important opportunity for us. Electives continue to be a huge benefit for our students, to provide them time to explore, create, and develop. Our teachers, again, have truly pivoted and adapted to being asynchronous. They show up stronger every day. They provide our students with engaging projects to really explore, and they're connecting with them even when they don't have the opportunity to see them face to face. We also recognize that after-school programming is important. We recognize that the need for after-school activities for our students to connect with one another is really, really important. So we're beginning to plan for our after-school program. In the future, we look forward to and welcome conversations about how we can offer more programs and more programming. But enough of my voice. Let's take a look and listen to other students' voices as they appreciate each other.
Hi, I'm Ellie from Rock TV, and these are this week's shout-outs. Shout out to Miss Twining, Miss Sullivan, and Miss Miracle, and shout out to Tegan West for being a great friend and helping me with algebra. Shout out to Miss Dunn for being a super amazing and supportive teacher. She's always nice to students, even when they're not nice to her. If you need help with something, she's always patient with you and genuinely cares about you being the best student.
Hi Rock Creek, it's Evelyn. I am going to do 3 shout-outs. My first one is for Lydia Huff. She has been helping me with all of our classes and math, science, etc. And I'm just shouting her out because she is very kind and caring. My second shout out will be to Mr. Wolf. He's a great science and math teacher. He is always helping me and is a great teacher. Thank you, Mr. Wolf. My third and last but not least shout out will be to Miss Mayhoob. She made me have a great day with cooking, and she taught me a lot of different things with granola. Thank you guys. Bye.
8th grade Bella Martin would like to shout out Miss Mayhoob and say thank you for being supportive and caring in your facts class.
Shout out to a teacher, Miss Barry, my science teacher. You're so awesome, and I love your energy. You make science class so fun to just be talking about things that are usually boring, but you got your energy, so they're interesting. And I love it so much, thank you. But some shout outs to some students. These are, honorable mentions. This one's mainly about Miss Barry, but honorable mentions would be Grant Brown and Rhea Barnes. Both awesome friends, and I really appreciate your existence. I'm glad I met you guys.
Shoutouts are going to Jesse Thompson because he is really nice and he's a chill guy and he is really, really good at helping us. And Christopher Eric, he is a science guy and community connections, and he is really nice. He helps us really nicely. And the last person goes to is Mr. Gilmore because he is really helpful and he spends his time to help us, and we shall be thankful for that. Thank you.
Everyone, my name is Grant Brown. My shout out for the week goes to Brooke Gannon and Mason Barrett. I wouldn't be nearly where I am today without them. They've gotten me through some really rough times, so I'm really happy that I have them there for me and that they have my backs.
And some people I want to shout out is Mr. Lambert, because he has been putting out some really helpful videos to help kids get really good understanding of what is going on. Miss Lee, because she has just been putting through the extra work to help out kids who have been struggling and trying to get them to get their grades a lot better. Some students are Lucas, because he has been a really good friend, making sure that I'm on task and staying at home doing my homework. And Joey, because he has been a really helpful person and has been really good supporter since the beginning of 6th grade.
Hi Rock Creek, I'm Isabella, and I just wanted to say shout out to Mrs. Mayhew, who is one awesome, helpful, and nice teacher, and shout out to Mr. Kruger from 5th grade for helping me understand math and make learning fun.
Aren't those guys awesome? I mean, nobody's got a better job than I do. My cheeks are kind of hurting right now from grinning. And the really cool part, that's something they do each week. Part of Rock TV, one of the elective classes, they put that together and they do shout outs each week. And so kids help put that together, but they get to kind of spread that message. We'd love to put 900 pictures up here on the slideshow, but they won't fit. But we can highlight our staff. And their focus has been on making this happen. Like we said, this year's been different, but it hasn't necessarily been bad. There's been lots of positives that have come out of this. We've highlighted some of those tonight, things that we've learned, things we're going to take with us moving forward. And a lot of that has to do with our incredible staff. We really are blessed. At this point, as we start winding up, this is normally where you would expect a principal to have some words of wisdom or some deep insights and really just bring it home for you. But I've got a better one. I'm going to leave that to one of our teachers. One of the shout out segments she put out, and she put it out to all our kids to recognize what they're doing. And I think it really just sums up what we've been trying to say. So let's listen to Liz instead of me.
On that note, here's a shout out to every single Rock Creek student. You guys are killing it. I want you to know that what you are doing, no students have ever done before. You are making history. You will be in the history books. You are creating a new way to learn. And if nobody's told you today, I am here to tell you, you are doing a fantastic job. You, all of you guys. You are showing up as best you can, you're giving as best you can, and you're doing something that's never been done before. I'm so proud of you. You're amazing. I'm so proud of you.
Well, that was awesome. Thank you guys. That's incredible. I love the positivity that you guys are spreading. That's pretty cool. I'll go around, Robin, for you guys to have feedback. We are at about 7 minutes into this, so just be cognizant of time. Director McVeigh, what do you got for us?
I just want to say thank you, and I so appreciate the looking for wins in this situation instead of just all the losses. Thank you.
Absolutely. Director Way.
Yes, I echo that. And I also just love the student voices and the teacher voices that has just been beautifully incorporated into your presentation. So I don't have any questions at this moment, but thank you again so much for all of your hard work so far this year.
Thank you. Director Perez.
Yeah, that was pretty awesome. Awesome job, John, Trisha, and Aaron, because, you know, it usually starts at the top and trickles down, all that positivity and all that love that you pour on the kids. So awesome job to you three, and yeah, way to go.
Pretty cool. Director Benaloga.
Yes, I want to thank you too for your energy. It was just wonderful to see the kids and your staff. I have to admit, the videos are just my favorite part. We want to see our community, thriving even in these difficult times. We want to see those obstacles turn into opportunities, and I loved it. Thank you so much for your presentation.
Director Schradel.
You're muted, Steve. I've been there many times.
You said, okay, are you good? You can't find your sound?
He doesn't understand
Oh,
technology.
you can't find sound, okay. All right, Director Bauer.
Yes, to echo what everyone said, so positive. I think some of those students we need to recruit for future teachers. And you just did an incredible job with the videos. I just want to follow up on one thing. You said that you are learning so much, and one thing was that you were looking at grading through equity. I don't want to take too much time, but what did you learn? Did I hear that correctly? Maybe I didn't.
Yeah, I was just doing the pause, look, is anyone unmuting first? So yeah, this has been opened quite a conversation just around what our grading practices are and how we look at what we grade as a middle school and looking at the gaps. And so it's spurred conversation and dialogue and book clubs, and it's more than Rock Creek that's a part of that. Libby's a part of that, and Alder Creek's a part of that, and science and math are a part of the conversations. So it's definitely, we're reading a book right now that's called Grading for Equity. And it's a inspiring time to have that conversation.
It's one of those silver linings, the traditional way. At least I remember when I was in school, somebody talked at you, you did an assignment, you had to turn it in by a certain time, and that doesn't always reflect how much you know. Sometimes it reflects how you can play the game. And with some of the barriers we have accessing right now, it made us think about what do we grade or assign points to, and what are we really measuring? And that's been a discussion that's gone on for many years in education. This just kind of thrust it right to the front of, how do we get to the point of what a student's grade should be, or what should it reflect? So the deeper study, it caused people to really dive in at this point.
Great, thank you for all your work.
And I'll just wrap it up. I have one statement and comment. First of all, it's an excellent presentation. Thank you guys. And of course, I have a small, a deeper love because I have a kid there. I do have a question though. The energy you guys are creating in kind of this world of connectivity using technology, have you thought through how you guys, as you will be going through a lot of transition in the next couple of years, not just right now, right? So this is very much in the present and it's appropriate, but how do you take this into that transition and use it as something to help the children who will, in your particular school, have a lot of transition for a little bit longer than maybe COVID?
Yeah, that is a great question. We know we're finding many more tools that we can use once we're in regular school. But you make a great point, Libra, the piece of how we can better connect, because we will have a new community. When we move buildings, some of the attendance areas change, that there's a large portion of students that have been in a different feeder that will be joining our community. We've been doing some talking and visioning as a leadership team, and with our equity team earlier today, we've already started to think about how we plan ahead several years. For those that know me well, it wouldn't be a surprise that I hadn't quite gone down the technology ramp of that. I'd been thinking more in the classroom, but I think that's a great point to utilize that tool as part of that transition too. So thank you.
Cool. Well, we all look forward to continued success from you guys, and thank you for sharing what you have done so far. Cool. Oh, Orlando, I'm sorry, Director Perez, what you got?
Yeah, Chair, I got so caught up in all the positive, and I was doing all that I forgot there was one thing I just wanted to comment on real quick. The focus, I think it was Aaron that said, was talking about the social-emotional support, and then someone mentioned, focusing on every child. Remember the emotional piece, I think was the statement. And I just want to say it was nice to hear that, because before kids can accomplish great things academically, you gotta cater to the emotional, and they all come in with something, there's something there sometimes, and to have that focus or that awareness of the emotional piece, always. Appreciate hearing that. It was nice to hear that. Keep up the good work.
Thank you all. All right, well, enjoy your evening if you're staying with us, and enjoy the rest of the meeting. Moving on to our next agenda item, which is going to be presented by several of our North Clackamas staff. It's our capital construction bond report. And for all of you guys, we're on page 54 of the agenda, of the packet, just so you can follow along. Is Cindy?
Yep, I'm here. Thank you. Joining me this evening for our quarterly bond report to you is Ron Stewart, Senior Capital Projects Manager, as well as Galen Jacobson, our Chief Financial Officer. So I'm going to go ahead and share our presentation. Ooh, well, hang on. I was stuck on one slide. There we go. Okay, here we go. I'm going to turn this first slide over to Ron Stewart.
Good evening, everyone. We're excited to come to you again and present our update on our bond program. As you can see, our bond program is about $518 million, almost $519 million. We have spent nearly 77% of the bond proceeds. Our total spent and committed is like 90%. And that leaves the remaining 10% that's unspent and uncommitted. We're about 48 months into the bond program. This is the presentation that was given to the Bond Oversight Committee. And for projects completed, about 63% done. And this doesn't complete, the count doesn't count some other projects that are outside of the main project, such as the transportation lot and driveway that was completed. We're completing 100% of the commitments. And projects in construction, we have 6 in construction now. And again, that doesn't include the emergency power connectivity project. And the projects in design, we have 9 projects coming up to start this spring and summer. And that doesn't include the transportation shop or the secure entry project. And we don't have any projects remaining to come up. We might have some miscellaneous small projects coming up. And then of course we purchase all of our properties.
I will remind the board and also let any viewers know that many of these screens that we have tonight, these slides, have a lot of really detailed and small type. These are just reference for the board. They have all of these in their packet, and these are viewable on the district website in 2 places. One on the bond website under the Community Bond Oversight Committee page, as well as the board page as well under agendas.
So this is our inclusion and diversity and contractor report. It's a little bit different than the last time you saw it because we have added a couple columns that show you the difference between the previous report and the current report, and then the difference is the final column. And so again, we have 3 sections. The blue section is a contract consultant summary. The green section is a contractor summary, and the yellow is the combined contractors and consultant summary. And if you go up to the consultants summary, again, the blue font will show you our aspirational goal was 15% participation. In our previous report, you saw that we were at 22.41%. Our current report shows that we are at the same level of participation. And so again, the final column would show a 0% change. The contract value for that section has gone down by 0.3%. And that's because the overall contract values went up. Our PO changes and change orders went up, but not as big for the COVID firms. Contractor summary, the aspirational goal is 15% participation, and we're just slightly over that 15% participation. And the last line in that section, the contract value, has gone up 2%. So we're at 9.25% of contract value to COVID firms. And then the combined total of consultants and contractors, looking at the, again, aspirational goal of 15% participation, we're at 16.69%. And the contract value, that last line in that section, has gone up slightly at 1.89%. This is measuring just projects that are over 250,000, which was a decision made several years ago, just as we were new to this and thinking that it would be a big ask to try to track all the smaller projects and bigger projects. Later, we learned that this really worked to our disadvantage, especially when we're recruiting small emerging businesses, which would be looking for the projects under 250,000. And so this report only reflects the projects $250,000 and above. It does not reflect the smaller projects that many of our small emerging businesses would be attracted to and participating in. I think last time we reported to you that the impacts from COVID were not great. And I can report to you now the impacts from COVID are having an impact, as well as the wildfire, smoke, and fires. It's just been very interesting how the impacts have happened, not just in Oregon, but throughout the nation, of how that affects our supplies, materials, and labor. So we've had COVID outbreaks on our sites. We've had to shut down entire sites. We've had to shut down entire trades. And obviously when things are done in sequence, that affects schedule. We have lost both job site, work outside, and crews and individual family staff from fires. We didn't lose them. We lost them for a time while they had to evacuate or they're disrupted. And we lost time when people couldn't work outside due to smoke. And so all these things accumulated and has had an effect on our projects. And on one project, the excavator and all the equipment left to go fight the fires. And that held up a project too. This is our milestone schedule. And this schedule is broken into 4 sections. The first section is a completed section. The next section is an in construction section. The next section is a project in design, and the last section is future projects. The red font are those things that have changed since the last time you've seen this report. And so line 13, Milwaukee High School moved up from in construction to be completed. And you see Oregon Trail has moved up to be completed. And the transportation facility, that's the site work and the new driveway, has moved up into the completed section. The projects in construction, Milwaukee El Puente has had some changes. It's become more of a phased project where we have some different completion dates with the added scope of being completed as late as December for the additional parking lot. And then Riverside is going to be changed as well. It's going to become a very phased project. While some people can get in and use the building now, some parts of the building won't be completed until in late December or even beginning of January. Now, again, people will have access to the building and be able to use it, but the complete building project won't be completed until much later. And View Acres is the same. It's coming along a little faster. The addition staff and the office staff are using the building, but the major renovation downstairs and the 2 classroom addition is just finishing up now.
Okay, the next section is going to be previewed for you by Gail and Jacobson.
Well, good evening. So we have the bond summary, budget summary in front of you, and Ron had talked a little bit about this. We are at about $519 million for the total revised budget. We have paid out over $469 million, excuse me, with a remaining budget of $49 million. This slide shows you our budget as compared to the original budget, the revised budget, total paid and contractually committed to date, and what is remaining on each of the projects. The yellow highlighted column there under revised budget shows any program project that has been revised since the last report. So anything in that column has been revised either up or down. So you can see that on line 4 for Alder Creek, the budget has been revised up, and that came out of the contingency. Then we had the middle school covered play area that has been absorbed up into the Alder Creek Middle School program. So that budget actually, that piece of it did move up from line 14 or 24, sorry, to line 4. And then you'll see one program there has about $2,000 of negative remaining budget. Once we have closed all POs and cleaned up the last little bit of that, that will go to a positive number or 0. Here we can see that Owen Sabin and Ben Schellenberg has also had an increase to their budget, which also resulted in a decrease to the contingency there on line 50. So the contingency has, as we go through this, the contingency will continue to drop and or go up as projects finish and money is either needed to finish them or goes back into the contingency. So this is our income statement to date at 9/30. It shows that to date we have received total revenue of $517 million, which includes interest earnings of $16.3 million. This was originally forecast at $15 million, so we have increased substantially since our original forecast, and includes all the total expenditures to date, but does not include any purchase orders that are open. It's only actual expenditures to date, which leaves us a cash balance at the end of September of a little over $119 million. And this is the financial revenue forecast for the entire bond program. And that shows that we are expecting to receive the total of $518.7 million, which includes about another $600,000 to $800,000 in forecasted interest expense or interest income, as well as a few pieces that we haven't received yet on matching grants. But everything else has come in to this point. So are there any questions on this part of the financial forecast?
Thank you guys for the presentation.
We're not done with the total presentation. This is just the financial piece.
Okay, so I will say let's wait to the end.
Okay.
Because it's a little complicated to kind of do in between. But I know, I'm confident that everyone's taking notes about their questions.
Thank you.
The next report is our program reserve budget. And this is something that the Community Bond Oversight Committee will go over line by line when we meet. And I won't do that with you, but I will just hit the highlights of the bottom line pieces. Line 1 is the original bond reserve amount. And the next section is the actual transfers. And that's going from line 2 through line 45. And that gives you a total on line 46 of the actual transfers of the $34,388,000, with the balance then of the $3.9 million you see on line 47. And thankfully, that number matches up with Galen's report. The next section is the potential or the projected potential transfers. These may or may not happen. They may go up, they may go down. And that's from line 49 through 73, with the total of those projected transfers found on line 74. And that the total of the projected transfers is about $2.447 million. When you take both the projected and the actual transfers and add them together and subtract it from the initial reserve amount, we now have a program reserve balance of $1.475 million, which seems like a scary number, but we have already allocated, well, I should say we've already allocated and projected to allocate some large sums of money to the projects in design. And so, and the projects upcoming is totaling $18 million. That's not that's total projects, not just construction. So that's not a bad contingency for maybe $15 to $13 million worth of construction coming up.
Okay, this is our list of completed projects. It's been the same list, but as Ron showed in a previous slide, things move up onto this list. Those are the underlined items that have moved into the completed section of our program, and that is Milwaukee High School, Oregon Trail Elementary, one of the many phases of the transportation facility, and the Clackamas High School Stadium field turf and track replacement. We are continuing progress on 6 of the projects. We're going to give you some highlights of a few of those. And also in progress as well, we mentioned last time we were hopeful that we might be able to move up and take advantage of I heard one of our directors earlier say turning obstacles into opportunities. COVID certainly has been an obstacle, and yet one of those opportunities is sometimes being able to do things that we would not normally be able to do would we have students in our schools. And so we were able to move the field turf and track replacement for Alder Creek and Putnam up to this fall versus next summer. However, it is going to be a phased project. While the turf replacement will be completed, the tracks will need to be waiting for a little bit better weather. So here's a peek at a few of the projects that you haven't necessarily seen either in completion or very much in construction. So I have a video here compiling New Urban, View Acres, Riverside, and a peek at some of the finishing stages of Sabin-Schellenberg.
Hello, I'm Kevin Moyson. I'm the project manager for New Urban High School. As you can see here, we've demolished the old building. We currently have the basement foundation in, which is all the tall walls you see. The forms are going in for the new gymnasium footings, and we're backfilling some of the foundation over here. Up on the hill, you can see the 3 modular buildings for temp classrooms for next year. All right, up here you can see the new foundation walls for the basement are waterproof. Contractor did a fantastic job on all the concrete work here. Over here, they are extending the forming, getting ready to pour the new first floor footings. All right, here we are at View Acres Elementary School. As you can see down here, we have our 2 new classrooms that are ongoing, getting built. And in our bus drive lane, we fixed the drainage issues. You can see here, we've added 2 new classrooms up by just extending the building out a little ways. Here we are inside one of the new classrooms, and as you can see, we have the sheetrock completed on the walls. Kitchen renovations that include a new server line, resinous flooring, and expanded freezer. TLC room upgrades that includes larger windows, new sheetrock walls, acoustical panels, new lighting, and many other things. 2 new water heaters. And here in the boiler room, we have 2 brand new boilers that are very efficient, much smaller than the old, should work a lot better. We also have a new fire sprinkler system throughout the building that comes in from outside and distributes to the school. Here's our new riser for the fire suppression system. Here we are outside at the field location. We have a new run path that goes around the perimeter and new backstops at the baseball infield. And that's a quick overview of the improvements that are happening at View Acres Elementary.
Cindy?
I'm Randy Isaac, the project manager for the Riverside Elementary Improvement.
Yes.
Oh, I was just going to let the board know that these videos are, I don't know, 3 or 4 weeks old.
Yes, very true. These were done in early October, maybe the second week in October. So there's some other things that have been completed since then.
So like U Acres, I mean, everything's done in those classrooms that you saw were in construction.
Yeah.
Right now, we're looking at the front of the school. The office area is being remodeled significantly to allow public to enter directly into the office, which will help with security and help with the ability to service our students. We're getting a new entry, a remodeled office, as well as most of the school is getting new roofing as the old roofing has been leaking and was past the end of its life. Let's take a walk and see what work's going on inside the building. Okay, in the classroom, this is a standard classroom. We're putting in new floor coverings. We've added fire sprinklers for the south wing. We're getting new cabinetry and floor coverings to replace the rotten flooring that we've taken out, to replace old damaged wood cabinets that no longer served for the age of the kids that were in the classes. Here's the entry. We're getting new doors all the way across the front. We've got a new opening into the office off of the entry so we can maintain a secure line. And we've added space to the office as well as restructured the rooms to give them a small conference room to meet with parents and enough room to store everything they need, as well as a restroom in the health room, which has been a critical issue for this school. Okay, here's an example of a classroom a little bit farther along. Carpet's been installed. We've been touching up where the rubber base goes, and the cabinetry is in place with the new vinyl flooring. Okay, one of the elements of our project was to add the new telecenter intercom for the school. The school had a very old intercom that continued to go down. We have a new 2-post rack and all the new electronic headgear. It's already up and running for the students. Here we are walking into the kitchen. It's been a full remodel. The old kitchen had a poorly laid out serving line. The equipment that was here wasn't keeping up. There were only reach-in refrigerators. We're upgrading this kitchen with a complete new layout, including walk-in refrigerator and freezers, new tilting skillet, and being able to line up the equipment that they need to be able to serve the number of students they have, because they can only do one serving line at a time based on the size of the cafeteria. They have to serve really quickly here. We're excited about what this is going to do for them. As part of our work, we had to remove the ceilings of the lower hallways. This gave us the space to get the main lines for the fire sprinkler system above the ceiling and at least have a few areas where the project looked neat and finished, as opposed to the exposed pipe we get in a lot of other areas. One of the points of this school is the school was remodeled and added on to at least 4 separate occasions, and that's added some complexity to what we're doing. We've got to figure out, based on the original drawings, what we have to work with, and then every time we open up something, we have a unique situation to solve. Looking at the outside of the building, we've repainted the south end of the building. We had wood siding with a lot of paint peeling, so we freshened it up. We are redoing the guardrails for the mechanical area that we've added that services the kitchen. We've added some lighting that makes it a little bit safer for the teachers to get to the school in the dark time of year. Resurfaced the front entrance driveway to give it another 10 years of life. The site utilities that provide water for the sprinkler system and a new water main, as well as minor improvements just to catch up with all those things.
I'm Sean Stolger with the North Clackamas School District Bond Program, and we're here at the Sabin Schellenberg Professional Technical Center. This is the North Campus, what's called the North Campus. There's 3 campuses total. This building here is what we call Building D, and this is it holds the administration for the entire program, and it also has like a classroom. It's a classroom wing also with about 8 classrooms. We were able to save the building shell of this and the roof structure, and essentially we did a major renovation and essentially removed everything inside down to basically the exterior walls and the roof and the concrete floor, and rebuilt everything and actually made the space more efficient and added some classrooms and hallways and brought it up to district standard. As part of this renovation project, we've had new wayfinding set up at all the campuses. So now as parents and visitors come here, they can see where building D is, where building A and B are. This would be the main entrance that the students use to access all of the shops.
the new lobby, entry, and locker space for the shops. And we have a variety of equipment here, drill presses, lathes. Much of this stuff is robotic and computer aided. So here we're walking into the welding shops. They're moving in the smaller equipment and setting up the workstations. We're here at the South Campus. This is commonly by a lot of students and staff referred to as the Schellenberg building, but this is the South Campus. We had a major renovation here, particularly the high roof areas, which are the tall walls, concrete tilt panel walls. That whole area received a major seismic renovation, and it will also receive the district's solar panels, which is a commitment that had to be made as part of the bond. And so this building has new frontage, new cladding along the entire front, and a new entryway, new administration wing, and then a new commons is made as multi-purpose space, both for presentation mode and also as space for learning. And we've had some hallway upgrades and quite a few building safety upgrades here as well, modernizing this building and revitalizing it. Here we are at the South Campus Commons. This was formerly a middle school cafeteria at one point. It has now been, it's a current technology culinary program. So this room now has multiple space, flexible classroom space. It could even be a banquet hall to allow the culinary students real world experience.
And I should say that's the
This is the
Joe
main
Crum
entrance.
room.
This is a newly constructed secure vestibule. And then we have our main office here with student display areas. And then we have our hallways are getting some upgrades. Still lots of finishes left to go. And then over here is the new student store, coffee shop, and student breakout flexible space.
Okay. I know we're short on time and it just gets into some technical things here for the rest of this portion.
Hello, I'm Kevin Moyson. I'm the project manager for New
Always happens when you try to get to. I just wanted to direct your attention also to Adrian C. Nelson High School. We're not going to take time this evening to show this video. I believe it's been forwarded to the board previously. It's also available on our bond website. This is a video that Greg Harris, our principal who will be opening up Nelson High School, and our videographer Brian McGrew did to share with the community, to show what Adrian C. Nelson High School, how the construction was going, give a little peek inside to the up and coming students. As a reminder, we're adding 16 additional classrooms to the current Rock Creek campus, turning that into a high school, along with multiple athletic complex, gym, weight room, locker rooms, a stadium, all of the access to all of the sports and things that we have at all of our comprehensive high schools to make sure that this is ready for the fall of 2019 or fall of 2021, sorry. Milwaukee El Puente, I'm so excited about that play structure that's there. It is so inviting and we can't wait until we see students playing on that. That's the top picture there. The bottom left-hand picture is on the inside looking into the new main office, which has been relocated to the parking lot side of the school building. And then the last picture that you see there is a typical classroom and all of the upgrades that each of our classrooms will be receiving at that school. As a reminder, we are also able to add, this was not a bond commitment, but we've added an additional small parking lot to that school that is in desperate need of some additional parking. Alder Creek replacement, I mentioned that earlier. This is one of the things we're able to do a little bit earlier than planned. And along with Putnam, you see Putnam was a little bit further along when we took these pictures, and there's the new turf that you can see bright gold and green there for the Putnam students ready to come back as soon as we can. These are these projects that are currently in design. Many of these are much smaller projects, with the exception, I would say, of Clackamas High School East, which is going to be converted to receive the Rock Creek Middle School staff and community in the fall of 2021 when Nelson High School moves onto their campus. And so we need to turn that back into a middle school that will get a covered play area. We'll be reconverting back to make sure they have an art room and a fax room and a gymnasium that has bleachers, et cetera. So we'll be working on that. Clackamas West will have the addition of a student health center, as each of our comprehensive high schools have at their schools as well. And then some additional projects down below. A lot of those are mainly unfunded maintenance and some security upgrades. Future projects will be going through that reserve list, doing the punch list process that we do, and we'll spend the next year or so doing the closeout process for the bond. As that staff starts to shrink a little bit in size, those projects get closed out, and we turn all of those projects back over to the district facility staff to maintain. And that concludes our presentation for this evening. I'll leave the slides up in case there are questions specific that I need to toggle back to.
Thank you, guys. It's exciting to see the work come around. It's exciting. So thank you for that. Director Perez, I saw your hand up first, so we'll start with you.
Yeah, not so much a question, just a quick comment. I just wanted to say always enjoy the videos that Cindy and Ron do. I want to say the El Puente playground structure, I used to take my daughter there about 4 or 5 years ago. We went there a lot. So when I just saw that video, I was like, wow. I mean, that's an impressive looking structure. Of course, the last time we saw Matt, superintendent was swinging on the swing in the background, I believe. But just want to say that thank you, Cindy and Ron. And I wouldn't be surprised if one day you guys form a duo and in making videos and stuff, because I enjoy your videos. So just want to say that. Thank you.
Thank you. Much credit goes to Brian McGrew. He does a fabulous job for us.
Excuse me, Director McVeigh.
Nope, it's going to be like Christmas when these kids get back in all these new buildings.
Yep. Obstacles into opportunities. Director Way.
Yes, thank you so much for, again, just a really great update. And I love all the videos and everything that we're seeing. I just have a quick question for Ron, which, by the way, you might know that this is coming because I always ask about the diversity contracts and our progress. So I really enjoyed the visual of the comparison that you did. I thought that was great. You did mention that for the 250,000 projects, we could probably expect to see a little bit more COVID firms or contractors there. Do you know if that data is something that you can provide at a future date? Is that something that we collect? I'm just curious.
That would be a very big undertaking at this point in the project, now that all the contractors and subs have gone away, about trying to go back and get that.
Okay.
Possible, but it would be quite a project, and it would only be for show, I guess. It'd be good data maybe, but it wouldn't have an impact on the firms we're trying to have an impact on.
Okay, that makes sense. Thank you for the clarification.
Thank you, Director Benaloga.
Thank you as always for the presentation. Love to see the progress. So thank you, thank you.
Thanks, Director Schradel.
Thank you for the update. I have no questions.
All right, Director Bauer.
Yeah, thank you for all the hard work, transparency, and that you present to our oversight committee, which is a great group asking just really delving questions. So they're doing a great job there. I wanted to ask, there was a slight update, wasn't there, Ron? I'm on the committee, from what you shared in October 21st to the program reserve budget. I think for Clackamas High School East Phase 2, that was 375,000 more, I believe. That was the only update I saw since the October 21st. bond oversight. Is that correct?
Ron, you're on mute.
I'd have to go back and check, Mitzi. I am not tracking on that right off.
Okay, I can just send it as a little email to that. No big deal. I think it was just an update. Then the other thing I wanted to ask, so I'm not remembering, have you shared with the board, I got it on the committee, but maybe I've shared with the board too, the bond improvements that exceeded bond commitments. Has that been shared? Because that's a long list of 4 pages. That's very impressive.
I think we shared it at the last meeting, but Mitzi, if you think it'd be a good idea, it's something we can add to the quarterly report that you get in addition that has the full report from the committee.
Yeah, it's just so impressive. Thank you so much.
I appreciate that. I'll make a note of that.
Cool. Thank you, everyone. Great presentation. Thank you for the updates. It allows us to continue to make sure we're doing what we said we were going to do. Next on our list, we have Human Resources Recruiting, Hiring, and Retainment Report. This is also an informational session. Mark Moser, are you there?
I am. Good evening, everyone.
Hello.
I want to say that I'll admit that this is the first time I've worn a tie since March. So I almost forgot how to put it on, and it's also hard to follow Ron Stewart, but we're going to do our best tonight. I have a colleague of mine in HR that's joining me, and she's going to spend some time talking to all of you about retention, our recruitment efforts, et cetera. So I just want to acknowledge Michelle Doyle. She is officially we have a long title for her, a talent acquisition and retainment specialist. Michelle, are you there?
I am. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Yay. So we're going to tag team this thing. This is the 8th year that we've done this report for the board. And I guess the way I'd like to break this down, and you've got it in your board packet, there's a lot of data that we've compiled and we continue to compile over time. So I'd like to kind of break this up and giving you my top takeaways from that data and then focus a little bit more down into some detail of the hiring and also the retention data that we've combined into your board packet. My big takeaways are, as there was last year, we continue to diversify our workforce. That's a priority 1 for the district. It's a slow process, but each year we're making more and more progress. But I'm an impatient person. I want to see it move faster, but we are making positive gains in that area. Another takeaway that I have for you tonight is our teacher turnover, in my estimation, remains pretty high. I'll give some detail to that in a little bit here. The areas that I have special concern about in terms of retention, and Michelle will talk about this a little bit as well, staff of color and special ed. We have struggles with those 2 areas, and we continue to have that. One thing that's helping us is Michelle's efforts and some creative work of teaching and learning. And again, she will go over some of those things. What's complicating some of our recruitment efforts is this pandemic. We're going more virtual, which is good. We're learning new ways to recruit, but that creates some complications and some challenges as well. And then I guess the other takeaway I have, and it's not so much reflected in the data, but it's more about how I've seen North Clackamas evolve in the 8 years or so that I've been here, is I sense a growing institutional urgency for diversifying our workforce. There is some real focused time and attention that's spent with all of our administrators every year on that topic, looking at data, reflecting on our own hiring practices together as a group. And so for the second year in a row, we've done a massive presentation and workshop, lots of discussion with all of our administrators where the focus has been that. How do we diversify our workforce? What's getting in our way? What's our barriers? So that's something that we feel good about. And I think some of those efforts are paying off. Just focusing on page 93 in your board packet, that's a page that we've been using as a format the last several years. And that kind of gives you some information about our hiring. Just very quickly, overall, we hired 102 teachers, either temporary or permanent. That information's on that page. What I'd like to see, or what I'd like to point out rather, is how our staff of color has grown, the percent of our workforce. Back in 13-14, my first year in the district, our overall staff of color percentage of our workforce was 8.2. We've now doubled that. And that's through a lot of work of our hiring managers and our administrators. Much work needs to be done though. It's still a small number compared to what our student percent of students of color is, and that's 41.7. We need to continue to work to have our teacher workforce especially reflect the cultural and racial background of our students and that ever-growing number. Something that I'm really happy with is in the last 4 years, in terms of our teacher licensed hiring, it's all been above 20% of our overall hiring for those years, where this current year, 33% of all of our teacher hires were staff of color, teachers of color. Feel good about that. Also feel good about the percentage of our administrators of color that we're hiring. This year, our administrators of color, our new administrators of color, is 70% of the overall teacher administrators that we've hired. And really happy about 59% of our classified hires for the year are classified staff of color. So those are good numbers, ways to go. One of the things that we also look for that's not reflected on the information that I've shared with you in your board packet is that our applicant pool hovers around 25% of applicants of color. We need to move that higher, but for the last 2 or 3 years since we've been measuring that, it seems to sit at about 25%. So that's a goal that we have as a department in HR, is to increase the applicant pool, diversify that applicant pool. If you look at us statewide, our school districts average about 10% of their teachers are teachers of color. In our district, we're a little bit above that. We're at 11.7. We're moving that needle. Every year it gets better, but that's a slow go. And we talked about that last year, if you recall. The next few pages, I'm not going to go into great detail, but that's how we track our retention data. And what we do is we collect data on teachers that we've hired, and we look at it for 5 years. And every year we try to determine how many teachers of that cohort have dropped out and have left the district. And when you look at that information, we lose, in terms of our teacher retainment, we lose about 60 to 70% of our teachers over 5 years. So that's a pretty significant number. And then finally, in terms of retention cost to the district, every year we are spending about $1.5 to $2 million in the cost it takes to retain, rehire people because others have left. So that's another thing that we have to think about when we're talking about retention, is the costs that come with that. And then finally, I would just say that Michelle's going to give some information. We have questions that we'll certainly take at the end, but she's going to talk to you a little bit more from an anecdotal standpoint, but also some of the efforts that she's involved in with teaching and learning, and some of her own efforts that she's undertaken with regards to recruitment and retention. So Michelle, do you have some information there to share?
Thanks, Mark. I'm going to share my screen now. Okay, starting off, in partnership with Teaching and Learning, I participate in the new teacher support group, which directly impacts our new educators' experience. The purpose is to provide a time for professional learning of logistics and educational best practices. This group also plans New Educator Academy, our 2-day professional development day for all new to the district educators. I help mentor 5 new teachers using the framework designed by Teaching and Learning. This gives me firsthand knowledge of the support we provide to teachers. I'm able to share this experience when I'm out recruiting and at job fairs. We've conducted empathy interviews. They're designed to help individuals dig deeper into the surface of how are you. It helped us identify not only the current state of our teachers, but helps us gain understanding of what our teachers' needs are and how we can best support them. This year, we recognize that although we are virtual, our new teachers felt they needed a sense of connectedness with teacher leaders and new educators. We created a time that they could meet in small groups. So we've had additional times beyond Educator Academy to come back with those that they met that first week during PD week. The time for teacher collaboration and community is more evident now that we are in CDL. And although these gatherings are optional, our turnout is always great. This year, we are co-creating with Teaching and Learning a new to the U.S. education system affinity group. A teacher leader will facilitate this group. This is not to move teachers into a simulation, but to provide a space to connect with teachers with similar lived experience. This could potentially also be a time to talk logistics, such as the process of obtaining Oregon licensure, or even how to get your transcripts translated. New teacher roundtable, we started last year, but due to COVID, we were only able to come together once. This was a group of executive level directors that met to discuss themes around the experience of our new educators. This year, we are focusing on the onboarding process with a specific focus on educators hired after the contracted start date. In partnership with Teaching and Learning, we want to try this out and to make adjustments and have a finalized plan for our 2021-2022 school year. University partnerships, we have 8 student teacher placements with Oregon universities this year with over 50 student teachers in our district. I attend all of the university recruitment events that can go from job fairs to even practicing mock interviews. I'm part of the Portland State University's consortium group, as well as the Metro Area Pre-Service Partnership. This is a group of the school districts around us, as well as our universities, where we're able to get together and talk about common supports that we're doing. Something I'm really excited to share with you guys tonight is we recently at the end of October applied to the Educator Advancement Council's Grow Your Own Pathway. This is a $200,000 grant that we applied for to create a teacher pathway program. We'll find out this month if we got it. If we do, our teacher pathway program is designed to fill the critical shortages of classroom-based bilingual and BIPOC staff, special education educators through an innovative and collaborative program for current employees and as well as our students. Our teacher pathway program will support current employees through 2 pathways as they work towards licensure. Our high school pathway program will help promote the education profession before students enter the workforce. Our program provides multiple entry points and is not exclusive to a university partnership. Classified retention, of course, our recruitment season was cut short due to COVID this year, but in the 2020 school year, we filled 53 positions in transportation. They attended 8 career fairs, and this year, our classified staff is eligible for an additional $700 if they're working towards taking teacher prep coursework. The integral part of retention is knowing the experiences of those who work in our school district. Our work in HR is not done after they are hired and through the onboarding process through our district office departments. We have to continue to know and understand their experiences so that we are best able to support our educators and evaluate the systems that are in place that impact them most. I'm going to share with you a few of our educators' voices that I collected through empathy interviews, exit surveys, or just authentic conversations I've had. An educator's experience on having a mentor. Having a mentor has been a great experience for me. She's been able to answer questions for me that I hadn't gotten from coworkers. She has been able to get me passwords for curriculum that I couldn't get or didn't know where to start. Since I was hired late, I was missing lots of information and valuable tools. She's really helped me feel at ease. A perspective of being a teacher of color in North Clackamas. As an educator coming from out of state, I conducted a lot of research and effort to find the district that I viewed as the best fit for me and my educational philosophy. North Clackamas stood above the rest as far as the district stands on equity and the perceived willingness to teach the whole student. I was fortunate to have an interview with the district at the job fair, and an offer was made to me within a 2-week period. Fast forward to time, the new Educator Academy, where once again I was taken back by the intentionality of prioritizing equity and inclusion. The parent panel all but confirmed for me that I was in the right place to help bring a much needed change to the way we educate our students. However, after 2 years of being a member of North Clackamas School District, I have come to realize that the district stance on equity and inclusion was a smoke and mirror show. The claim that the district's goal is to teach the whole student and support educators who prioritize racial justice is a fallacy. Although the district's work through the union has created an affinity group for educators of color, there is still little support, often from site administrators, to support staff of color. I'm one of the only few, less than 5 staff of color at my school, and I'm frequently told by administration that teachers are not ready to have discussions around social and racial justice and anti-racism work. In the skin that I'm in, I feel as though my concerns about our students of color and the trauma that they are facing are pushed aside, gaslighted, or ignored because of white fragility. As we move into the school year, the inequities between our white students and students of color continue to grow. With little or no urgency to include educators of color in the conversation centered around closing the opportunity gap, I'm committed to the idea of education for all, but I don't oftentimes feel supported. Here's a new educator's reason for choosing to work in North Clackamas. After student teaching in North Clackamas, it's become my first choice in the district I would like to teach in. The biggest reason for me that stands is the unity and the values of the district. It's not only comforting, but in some ways essential to feel like your values as a teacher are supported by our district. I'm very appreciative for the opportunity to grow alongside other amazing educators and professionals and help make sure that each and every student feels important, capable, and supported. An experience of feeling drained as a new teacher. I have 4 different preps and they're killer. Ease people in with easier class load, not fewer students, just fewer class types. A story of community from North Clackamas. Every single teacher is willing to offer guidance when I've asked them. They know that helping me succeed helps us as a whole school. I appreciate the commitment to equity and the real steps that are being taken as a result of this commitment. I feel like a lot of people are on the same page. Additional retention strategies that I'm involved in. I help facilitate the North Clackamas Affinity Group. This year, we are doing bi-weekly, monthly Google Meets, and we've seen a huge increase in participation now that we are digital. About 36% of our staff of color attend regularly. The goal of this school year is to build up teacher leadership and have other staff facilitate the meetings. We've already begun that. North Clackamas recruitment events, of course, are looking a lot different. This past hiring season, the COVID hit right in the midst of our biggest recruitment time. And so we held at the district office a bilingual world language night recruitment event, a student teacher night where we gave each student teacher a screening interview and walked them through the hiring process, and then a special educators night intended to hire speech language pathologists, psychologists, and teachers. We send out intentional treats to our new educators to show them that we see them and appreciate them, even though they are done with the initial onboarding process in HR, teaching, learning. We're always here to help them. So we try to send them out just things to let them know that we're thinking of them. And that is a summary of what we've been working on.
And as you can see, there's challenges we have, and we're learning about the struggles that new teachers and have in the district. Some positives there and areas where we need to grow. I just want to give a compliment and a shout out to Michelle too. She has trained 35 subs into how to teach via CDL. So trying to help support our teachers in the classrooms by working with those substitutes. She's also the one that's the architect behind the survey that was talked about in the work session with trying to assess where our subs are, if they're available to work, should we move back in, or when we move back into in-person. So those are 2 things that are important because that's Michelle's spending a lot of time on that right now. So that's it, board. If you have questions, we'd love to hear them. We'd love to talk.
Great. Thank you, guys. And I appreciate all the work that you guys are doing, in particular, Michelle. I know you got a brand new baby, so that's an added little kudos to you doing all that with a little one in the household. Okay, let's do some questions or comments. I'll start off, Director McVeigh.
I just want to, congratulate the entire HR team. I mean, the stats from where we were 8-9 years ago are just amazing. And so much appreciated. I am curious, is there a district, maybe in the Northwest, not necessarily in Oregon, that is hitting it out of the park in attracting educators of color, and is there anything that we can learn from them?
Michelle, you want to talk about some of your experiences interacting with other recruiters in the area, maybe?
I'm sure you guys all are aware of the low number of teachers of color even in the state. And so our percentages are very similar to other districts. And we really take our exit interviews, we take that into consideration when we hear from people that may be leaving our district and going to another district. Why? We're seeing a lot of common reasons could be potentially their experience in North Clackamas, or they're leaving for a job like advancement that we are able to provide, so career advancement, or they're moving out of state. So those are the three common reasons we're hearing why people leave our district. And it seems to be the same stories in other districts around, you know, they may hire someone that we lost, or we may hire someone that's coming from them. So it's kind of like we're not growing in the state per se, we're kind of just moving around from
sharing resources.
Yeah.
You know,
Thank you.
I really think too, Tori, that a big part of the solution here is developing the kinds of programs that hopefully we'll be able to build with this grant that we're applying for. So I used to be a recruiter years ago, and I would travel the United States trying to find teachers. If I was lucky to find teachers that would come all the way back to Oregon, they would stay for 2 or 3 years and then they would move. So the retainment of those teachers that we would try to attract, trying to diversify the workforce, was a real challenge. I really think it's a grow your own is the solution. We need to build from our student population and also our classified population. That's kind of what the grant application is about for what we've just applied for. And there's some districts that do that pretty well, that have developed some of those programs. Portland Public stands out. I think they have developed some grow your own programs. And then also Beaverton, Hillsborough, it's to name 3.
Thank you for that.
Thank you. Director Way.
Yes, thank you so much for both Michelle and Mark for the overview and the presentation. I agree with Director McVeigh, and you know, looking at the numbers, where I'm glad to see that there's sort of that incremental growth, and certainly with COVID this year, I mean, everyone is trying to be flexible and creative, and so, you know, really kudos to you all for continuing to just come up with really creative strategies. I know how important it is for you know, more classroom teachers to look like the students that they serve. So I think it was both of you that have really sort of highlighted that point. And I'm kind of curious too, with some of the grow your own programs, how other districts are also shifting with COVID now that is, you know, something that is affecting everyone. So can you explain a little bit maybe more how you know, how this pandemic is also affecting the grow your own? And I'm also thinking about some of the universities who right now, again, because of COVID, I mean, they're not able to, you know, fully maximize what they have in terms of their programs.
Michelle?
Yeah, and I think that's a great point. And working with our university partners, they had a lot of students withdraw this year. And so even keeping their own programs fully with students was a challenge for them themselves. Even finding placements. I have given huge kudos to all of our teachers that are hosting student teachers this year. That is an incredible undertaking to take on, having no idea how the school year was going to start. They agreed back in the spring, I'll do it. So I appreciate all of our teachers that are mentoring our new workforce, because, you know, COVID is going to be its own retention of teachers issue as it is. And so I think that universities are worried about that and their recruitment strategies as well. So the way I've seen Grow Your Own working successfully is like if we do have classified staff that are in teacher programs, not only the tuition assistance, maintaining benefits as an option, student teaching within the schools that they were classified staff at. Those are ways that districts are really working to support the teachers that support their classified staff that want to go into the profession. And that's what we as well in North Clackamas are trying to implement some of those strategies through this pathway that hopefully we're able to get.
And hopefully we can get that grant, as you mentioned.
You know, Kathy, I just have to another shout out for Michelle. I believe firmly the best recruiter of teachers are teachers, and Michelle's background is as an elementary teacher. So when she goes out there and talks to teachers, she has a lot of authenticity, a lot of legitimacy when they know that she's a teacher as well.
That's great. Thank you. Thank you both.
Director Perez.
Yeah. Actually, first thing I noticed on Mark was the tie. I just want to say that. I saw that right away.
Thank you, Orlando.
Question on, thank you, Mark and Michelle, for all your work. Question on the Educator Advancement Council. Is there a plan B? Let's say we don't get the funds to pursue. Are there other grants that we could pursue? Is there a plan B? Because the Grow Your Own paths, what you just described sounds exciting. So just wondering if there's a plan B just in case we don't get this particular grant.
Yeah, we would probably have to hit Matt up for money. And so it would be a smaller effort on our part to try to do something at smaller scale than what we hopefully can do with this larger sum of money. It's tough getting these things off the ground.
Yeah. Do you know how many we're up against to get this grant?
I don't know. Michelle, do you have any idea?
I don't have the numbers, but I know it's really competitive because we were, I was contacted a lot to be like partners with other universities or education departments, but yeah, so I'm assuming that there is some steep competition. I hope that we will stand out. I really think that our pathway is strong. It's something that we created last year, even before this opportunity for the grant came up. It really is about how do we support our students and staff that are currently working in the district without having to be limited to a university partner, because that can be a barrier for a lot of different reasons to have to be tied into one specific university. So we want to support people that are currently already maybe in a program or have a college or university that they're interested in. So we're hoping that that stands out and that it really supports anyone wherever they're able to enter in at this pathway.
Okay. And real quick, lastly, last thing, the new teacher support group, new teacher mentors, empathy interviews, core connection, and then the affinity groups and all that. I was pleased to hear that, because anytime you can bring people together, you strengthen the bonds, right? And so you allow that opportunity for connection and relationships, and so all of that is good. And ultimately, our kids benefit when the relationships between our teachers are strengthened and et cetera. So glad to hear that all that is going on. Thank you guys for awesome work.
Thanks.
Thank you. Director Venaloga.
Yes, thank you for your presentation. Much appreciated. I'm excited to hear about the Grow Your Own. I actually was reading about that, and there's some really successful programs back in like Boston Public Schools. So I was reading about some of the programs that they put in, and I think that's great that we're going to possibly have an opportunity. I had a quick question about the mentors. I love the idea of a mentor program. I think it's so important to connect teachers that have been in the district and have been teaching and in the profession for a long time. But one thing I'm wondering is, can you tell us a little bit about just how you go about training the mentors so that it really becomes problem solving and something that's culturally sensitive and takes the teachers, takes everybody's values and everybody's life circumstances into consideration. I know that one of the downfalls for some mentor programs is not necessarily having a good framework for the actual mentor themselves. So, and I know that our teachers are mentoring these new teachers out of the goodness of their heart and taking a lot of their extra time. So what are we doing to make sure that that piece is successful?
And this is really, our mentor program really lies in teaching and learning. And so I am able to be part of that program, and they've done a really incredible job. And we're lucky that that the Oregon Department of Education has their own mentoring framework that we're able to use as a guide and a model for what mentorship looks like. So it wasn't something that had to be created out of thin air. There's excellent work happening at the state level, and teaching and learning has taken that and adapted it to fit the needs of North Clackamas's model. We mentor first year teachers in the profession. So not first year North Clackamas, but your very first year in the district as a teacher.
All right, thank you.
Great, Director Strado.
Thank you, Chair. I kind of typed out my things because I wanted to get it out, to vet it, to make it so maybe I could say it more succinctly and I guess perhaps be taken in a kinder light. But, you know, I look back in time, you know, our committees were very white 4, 5, 6 years ago. And now we have gender, we have people of color on committees. We're matching the demographics at a better rate now on bond, on budget, on just our committees. But that didn't just happen because it just happened. It took a desire, board members speaking up, asking questions all the time. So while I sit here and can say, congratulations, I see positive movement. But each year at this time, next year, I'm going to probably hear we have a shortage of bus drivers, we have a shortage of SPED, and our diversity is not moving along as well as we want it to, or it could. And so I would just simply say, I'd much rather hear a report on this topic once a quarter. And if this board member wants to hear what's happening, what are we doing new? We can't just copy what's being done and expect that it's going to be done and get a better outcome. We truly have to dig deep to get a meaningful change so that we can match the demographics of our district. Our students deserve it. They need it. And the staff of color need more staff of color to help support them in their day-to-day. And so I just find it frustrating. And it's not a reflection of HR. It's what are the barriers, but to me, it sounds like we need to have more resources put into HR to actually make this be something that accelerates. And I don't want to really continue. I just want to say, if in a year's time, if I hear the same thing, I will have a much more succinct message that I will articulate. Thank you.
Thank you. Director Bauer.
I don't have any questions, just one comment. I'll keep it short. I was thinking you have made some amazing progress in spite of, a shortage of teachers, cost of college, and now on top of that, the pandemic and a new mode of teaching. So it does make me fearful for the next year. But until we have a salary that we can pay teachers, nationwide what they're worth, it's hard to make progress. I mean, that's just my 2 cents. It's frustrating, but teachers are of such value and our community does value them, but it's not reflective of their pay scale. Thank you.
Thank you, directors. I'll just, in closing, I have one question, but I'll say my comments first. First and foremost, I think that we all recognize that this work is hard, and clearly you guys are doing the hard work. And so for that, absolute kudos, and we appreciate the hard work that you are doing. My two comments are around the comparative percentages. I'm always challenged when we talk about equity work and diversity, and we use these comparative numbers, and we use them as opportunities to say where we've improved. And it's challenging to me because we all know that historically it's been really crappy. And so we're comparing ourselves to crappy times. And so I think that that approach to equity work, that approach to diversity is almost, it's a very easy way of saying that you're doing something. For me, if you really want to do equity work in these areas, you have to you have to trailblaze and create something new. The white dominant culture is not going to be damaged by overcompensating with high diversity. I don't think that having the percentages that we've seen, that's not the answer to me. In fact, the answer to me is to go the opposite way. We already know what that white dominant culture is and does. We already know it exists. Many people will not ignore it. It will always have people who will make sure that it is dominant and has some voice. We need to find room for other voices. And so in doing that, you can't have small percentages, you have to have large, where people feel supported and they feel like they can do it. In the same vein, like Director Bauer was saying, I've always said, and I'll continue to say, it's very difficult to increase diversity in the education world because you're asking a group of people who have always been economically smothered to enter a field that doesn't pay them anything. It doesn't change their class. And so there has to be policy work to change that for them so that they want to do this and can do this and change their trajectory in their family and stop the generational poverty that they often are subject to. The last thing I say is with the grow your own, my only question is in the concepts, is there any, I heard students, I've heard classified staff, what about parents? There's a lot of parents, diverse parents, who are great teachers. And they may be your next best teacher. And they're not necessarily the youngest, but they've done this for a while. They're committed to this district. And I would like to know if there's any thought around that being the grow your own, not just the other pipelines.
That's a good point, Libra. I think that's certainly something that should be discussed. That's not part of this application for this grant. In all honesty, it's focused around classified staff and also students. Not to try to attempt to answer that question, but rather just to share a little more. We do have, of course, a lot of parents that are in our communities and take those jobs that those classified jobs, those part-time jobs, to try to make things work with their kids in the schools. So in that sense, I guess I could say that we're tapping that some, but I think your point's well said, that there's another diverse group out there called parents that we could be tapping. It's good consideration.
Cool. Well, as you continue to work, I wish you the best of luck. It's definitely a tough job, but I know you guys are tough people, so we'll get through it. We will get through it. Cool, moving right along. The next thing on our agenda is the OSBA election. This is a discussion item, and Superintendent Utterback will lead us in that.
Yeah, thank you, Chair Ford. So we've put time on the agenda tonight to allow the board to discuss the Oregon School Boards Association ballot items. And this is a discussion item tonight. It will come back for at your December meeting for action. And at this point, you are slated to take action in 3 areas. The first will be the OSBA Board of Director position number 7. There is a single applicant, and that is Liz Hartman from the Lake Oswego School District. Your second action item would be OSBA Board of Directors position 8. And again, we have a single applicant for that, and that is our very own Board Chair Libra Ford. And then the third action item that OSBA is asking you to consider is their resolution number 1, which is adopting the proposed 2021-22 OSBA legislative priorities and principles. You have in your board packet tonight the applications for Liz Hartman, Lieber Ford, and then a copy of the OSBA legislative priorities and principles. So I'll just turn it back over to our chair to facilitate any discussion should you have any.
Well, it's all round robin. You guys just speak your piece. Director Bauer.
Yeah, just one question. Will we be adding a vote on the Legislative Policy Committee applicant? And I think we have that person on our board.
Yeah, I do not believe that will require action. I will turn that over, though. I'll ask our board secretary, Sandra, to clarify that.
Yes, what I read from the notice was that this is the person just applies and it's a OSBA board appointed position, does not require a nomination or an election.
Okay, thank you for that. And my only comment.
It'll come back at a later date for the nomination and election.
Oh, it will.
After
By
the appointment.
So do we vote on that?
In the future, yeah, like you voted on when I was in that position, you
Thought
will.
so.
Yeah,
Okay.
the term is not up yet.
Okay, and thank you for your service and willingness to serve on that impressive application, Chair Ford.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair Way, for your interest in the other position.
Yes. Director Schradel.
Actually, we're voting these as separate items, correct?
We're not voting today, but yeah, we will.
But future.
Yeah.
Thank you for your willingness to do that. Continue to, I think you're perfect for the position. So I completely support what I read on paper. So I have no questions.
Thank you. Director Benaloga.
Yes, I too support and excited to vote on these eventually, and look forward to seeing what North Clackamas and our area can do with OSBA. So that's exciting.
Director Way.
I am also excited that the composition of OSBA and the representation of diverse voices and experiences is going to be changing. So, I think that's really kudos to the work of so many amazing board members that we have been able to, really diversify, I think, across Oregon and including our own board. So really happy to see us moving along in that front. And I just want to comment that, 2021 is going to be a different year, I think, in the legislature. OSBA is going to have their legislative priorities and principles, as you can see here. And I would like us to, really take a close look at these and also be critical, right, of maybe the work that we would want OSBA to do more of, especially around race and equity, and really challenge that institution to maybe be more bold. Thank you.
Well, I think your sound is a little distorted. So, Director Perez, did I get you? No, I didn't, right?
No, I was just trying to figure out what all that noise was about.
Yeah.
Distracted, scared there for a second. Oh, yeah, I was going to say, I'm always rooting for all of you, my fellow board mates, and so anytime one of you move up or gain another, I get excited. I feel excited and happy for our chair, and just want to say you never cease to amaze me. I don't know where you get all that energy, but tremendous heart of gold and tremendous spirit, and I'm envious of that energy that you have, because every time I look, you're on another thing. I'm like, oh my goodness, Chair. So I'm happy for you and proud to be on the board with you and all of you. So awesome. Thank you.
I appreciate that, Director Perez. Director McVeigh.
What he says. Proud and happy to support.
Very cool. Yeah, so I'll just, in closing, say I appreciate all of you guys' words. I appreciate Director Way stepping up in another area that we need more representation into. And I think it's cool that we've got a lot of board members from this particular board interested in being a part of the change during a time that we need to, we have a lot of work to do, and it's different than we've ever seen before. And so the only way we're going to get through this is to put our heads down and do the work. And for all of you looking for where I get my energy, it's called spinning. So you guys are welcome to come whenever you want. Just saying.
Oh no, I've been to that. I've been to
that. Just saying. Okay, so next on our agenda, are we good, Matt? Can we move on, or you have something else to say? We're good? Okay, cool.
We're good.
Next on our agenda is our policy revisions, and we have Miss Tiffany Shireman, who's been patiently waiting. Good evening.
Yes. I like to come back towards the end here. It's okay. I'm right here. This evening, I have 3 policies and 2 administrative regulations for your discussion. This is the first reading of each, and I'm not seeking any action from you tonight. So this is a discussion. The first policy and AR that are coming forward are new, and they are new both in North Clackamas School District, but also in the state. These are responsive to the new Oregon administrative rule regarding the prohibition of hate symbols and taking a stronger stance in the state regarding safe and inclusive learning environments. We've talked many times about policy, sometimes driving equity work, policy sometimes following equity work, and this is clearly policy that is taking a stance. The language in the policy and administrative rule track very closely to the Oregon administrative rule, and there is a required policy adoption by the school district by January 1, as there is for all of the public school districts in Oregon. One detail I do want to point out is typically we bring you verbatim what the policy review team discussed. There has been one addition since the policy review team reviewed this. As this is new in the state, people are really diving into each of the words, and there was reference to swastikas and the prohibition of swastikas. You'll notice the added word of Nazi before swastikas to ensure that we're not prohibiting Hindu swastikas in our schools and a student's religious freedom in that way, or families. So you'll notice the word Nazi added there if you were on policy review. That's the only change since policy review had a chance to review. The remaining policies this week are updates to our communicable disease policies for staff and students. As you can imagine, our communicable disease policies have been really pushed to the test here in the state over the past 6 months. These policies now are aligned to our current district practice. You're not going to see any changes in the way we're addressing COVID-19 as a result of the wording changes. This is just simply more clear, and it's aligned with what we're currently doing. I'm available for any questions.
Excellent, thank you. I'll start off with Director McVeigh. Any questions, comments?
Nope, all good.
Excellent. Director Way.
Sorry, I don't want to have the weird voice again. Am I having a weird voice?
Yes.
Yeah, it's all bad. That's yeah, I don't know what happened to your mic. It's like all of a sudden it just went all the way left. If you want, I know there's no typing thing, but if you have a question, maybe you don't. Okay, cool. That works. Let's get you out and back in, and let's try it again a little bit. Why don't you drop out? Excellent. All right, Director Perez.
No questions. Thank you, Tiffany.
Cool. Director Benaloga?
No questions. Thank you.
All right. Director Schradel?
No questions.
All right. Director Bauer?
Just one question, Tiffany, and it's on ACB-AR, and it's just that the district and building administrators will develop and implement instructional materials to ensure that all school employees and staff are made aware of the procedure and related practices. So how are you doing that? I mean, in this new world, I was just curious.
Of course. Thank you for asking. One of the things that is rolled out along with the Oregon Administrative Rule is the Oregon Department of Ed has issued 2 guidance documents. We will take staff through the relevant portions of those guidance documents virtually, albeit. We will do so, and we'll use their documents and augment as we see fit. But that's where we'll start, is with the Oregon Department of Ed's what they're providing. Our own executive director, Shelley Reggiani, has been consulting with the Oregon Department of Education, and I am aware of their going through multiple revisions to be culturally responsive in their guidance and to ensure that we aren't creating additional trauma. I do believe that that is the primary lens through which our staff will need to work through this policy implementation, is through ensuring that no additional trauma is caused while we're working through the restorative practices and all of the other pieces.
Great. Thank you so much for your hard work and your committee. I appreciate it.
Sure.
Director Way, let's try you again.
Okay, is this better?
Yes.
So much better. Thank you.
Great. Great. I actually was just shaking my head because I didn't have any anything to add, but thank you for bringing these policies forward and for the policy committee for working on them.
Excellent. Thank you. And I will just share and wrap up. I mean, the policy around all of the hate symbols is definitely great work on the behalf of many people. OSBA, of course, being behind the push and everything. And I think it's a great thing. We're the first state in the nation to do a policy like that. I think it's a great movement for Oregon. We've been standing out for many reasons, but it's sure good to stand out for something good like this. So great work, guys. Thank you, Tiffany. Next on our list, we have superintendent evaluation process. Superintendent Utterback is presenting our discussion.
This is our last agenda item tonight. It is an annual agenda item, not asking for any action tonight, just discussion. This agenda item outlines the process for the superintendent evaluation for this year. And in the attachment, you will notice that around January 15th, our board secretary will email board evaluation template that was also included in the packet. It's the same template that you've used the last couple of years. And the board will have roughly a month to complete each of you to complete that template. Those responses will then go to a board subcommittee. You selected that subcommittee back in August. It is directors Benaloga, Ford, and Bauer who will then meet, taking into account all of your feedback, to craft a draft evaluation that will be presented to the full board on February 25th, and where it will be finalized and then shared with the superintendent prior to March 1. And then superintendent and the board will talk about that evaluation at their meeting on March 11th. I will point out this year's kind of board or district performance report will look a little bit different than it has in the past. As you will recall, we did not do state assessments last year due to the COVID virus, so that data will not be included. And as a result of the pandemic, we will have a new section on how the district has responded to the pandemic. So that'll be included in there as well. So I am open for any questions if you have any.
I can see you all. Does anyone have any questions? Head nod. The only person I don't see is Perez, Director Perez. Director Perez, do you have any question? Okay. Well, with that, we are at the conclusion of our meeting, and I would just like to say is, remember the bad news is that time flies, but the good news is that you're all the pilot. Michael Altschuler is the quote, the owner of that quote. I love that quote. So enjoy yourselves, fly high, fly far, and be intentional. Good night, guys. Thank you.
Thank you. Night, everyone.
Bye.